Hello everyone. Today I'm making a video that not a single person asked for, but I've been saying I'm gonna make for a while. And so I'm a woman of my word, but like no one cares, so it's fine. Basically, if you've seen my video where I summarize the entire plot of the Good Girls Guide to Murder trilogy, this is basically the same thing but for Percy Jackson and the Olympians. If you're curious, I will be making a Heroes of Olympus video at some point, which, if you don't know, is the series. It's like the sequel series to Percy Jackson and the Olympians. Deals with a lot of the same stuff, a lot of the same main characters, that kind of thing. So it's very connected, and it goes straight off of this series. So I will be doing that eventually, but right now I'm going to be doing Percy Jackson and the Olympians. Woo! So this is the first series that Rick Riordan wrote in his, what you might know as the Riordanverse or the Percy Jackson universe, all this stuff, which just became a huge thing. There's a show being made off of it, and it is just one of my favorite series ever. It's for kids, but like, hey, it's good. Hey, it's good. So, yeah. Here's what the sort of format for this video is going to be, because it's a little bit different than my Good Girls Guide to Murder video, because that was like about an hour and 40 minutes long. I'm trying to make this a little bit shorter. However, there are 5 books in this series rather than 3 as there were in the other one, so I don't know how short this is really going to be, but in an attempt to make this as short but like, you know, detailed and still fun as possible, what I have is all of the books all flipped to the like the contents pages, shall I say, and I'm going to be reading down the names of the chapters and just telling you what happens in each chapter and kind of doing it that way rather than just going through the whole plot, just because I didn't really rehearse this in any way and I didn't really think through this. I kind of thought through book 1. The last 4, I really don't know what I'm going to talk about. Obviously, like, I know what happens, but I'm going to be using the indexes as aids and just to keep it moving along. So, yeah. The stuff that I really linger on is mainly going to be, like, character introductions and character backgrounds and, like, the important stuff that is really, like, lasts throughout all 5 books. Rather than just, like, because in the books, there's a lot of, like, little, like, they go on quests and they go on little, like, pit stops. So I'm going to kind of breeze past those a little bit, get to the real nitty-gritty. So that's what's going to be happening. So yeah, and as you may or may not know, I'm doing the board again, where it's a door. But I'm going to have all the names. I've got a bunch of character cards down here, and it's going to be really fun. So let's get into book 1, The Lightning Thief. Okay, so this book starts out with chapter 1 called I accidentally vaporized my pre-algebra teacher. So basically it starts with Percy. He's in this boarding school in upstate New York called Yancey Academy. And he is just like, he's got a bad rep. He's gone to 6 different schools in the past 6 years of his schooling. He keeps getting expelled and he just can't get it right, but he's like trying so hard to just be like good. I'm trying not to quote the musical here, but like he's just trying to be a good kid. Yeah. So that's Percy, and his best friend is Grover Underwood, who's this kind of, like, awkward sort of guy, who, like, clumsy kind of vibe, but very, very loyal friend to Percy, and they both go to the school. And so Percy is, like, and the teachers don't really like him, and he's not really into school, So basically, they go on a school field trip to the Metropolitan Museum of Art in New York City, where Percy lives, but like at the time he's still at boarding school, so he like lives upstate. So they go to this museum and they have Mr. Brunner. If you're wondering why Mr. Brunner's card looks like this, you either know why his card looks like this or you'll find out in a short amount of time. So Mr. Brunner is their Latin teacher, and so he's taking them through the museum and he's showing them all different, like, you know, all the artifacts and stuff. And so there's also this teacher named Mrs. Dodds, who I do have a card for. Where is she at? Okay. Mrs. Dodds is another teacher at this school who does not like Percy. I'm going to put Mrs. Dodds down here just under Mr. Brunner. She does not like Percy, and Percy does not like her. They don't get on. She's actually a substitute. yeah. And so she calls Percy aside, and he thinks that he's, like, getting in trouble for doing something that, like, wasn't his fault, and he's like, yo, I didn't do it. And she's like, no, it's, like, that's not what I want to talk to you about, or whatever. And she starts getting really mean, and he's like, what's going on? Long story short, she turns into a monster. I'm pretty sure she turns into a fury, like, big, winged, like, demon-looking thing. And he's like, he doesn't know what's going on. He's like, what is happening? Mr. Brunner comes in, and he throws Percy a pen. It's a pen. And Percy's like, what? Like, what? And he clicks the pen, and it turns into a sword. Iconic. And so now Percy has a sword, and he's like, so he starts fighting Mrs. Dodds, aka the Fury, and he defeats her, because he is a battle genius. And so he's like, what just happened? And then, basically, they, like, go back to school, and when, like, Percy goes to talk to Mr. Brunner and Grover, because, like, Mr. Brunner and Grover are, like, in his office, and Percy goes in, and he's like, what was that? And these two are like, Percy, we've never had a teacher named Mrs. Dodds. They, like, gaslight him, and Percy's like, what are you talking about? So they're basically just covering up this whole thing that happened, and Percy's like, but you gave me a sword, like, you were there, you saw her, and he was like, I don't know what you're talking about, man. And then eventually, Percy is expelled from Yancey Academy. Brutal. But at some point, he overhears Grover and Mr. Brunner talking about Mrs. Dodds. And so he knows that, like, they're lying to him, and he's just like, what is going on? So Percy's just very confused. And he's confused because they're lying to him, and he's confused because he just saw his teacher turn into a demon. So that's basically what happens in chapter 1. Then, okay, perfect, the fan's on. Perfect, that's so perfect. Chapter 2 is called 3 Old Ladies Knit the Socks of Death. Basically, this is, like, summer begins, and Percy goes home for the summer to New York City, where he lives with his mom, Sally. I guess I'll put Sally up now. Sally Jackson, whom we love. I'll put that right there. So he's going home to his mom, Sally, and he has a stepdad named Gabe, but we'll get to that in a little bit. So he's, like, on the bus, and he's with Grover, and he looks out the window, and he sees these 3 old ladies. They're, like, knitting, and then they, like, cut the string, which, like, if you know the myth about, like, cutting the string, it's, like, it's in Hercules, I'm pretty sure, that, like, it's, like, the string, each string is, like, a life, and if you cut the string, someone dies. And so Percy sees these, there are 3 old ladies, but they're actually Furies, cut the string, and he's like, because that means someone's gonna die, and Percy's like, am I gonna die? And that's kind of what that means. And so then basically he goes home. He goes home, he meets Sally. We meet Sally Jackson, who is the sweetest mother ever. She's so cute. And she's like, Percy, you know, you work so hard at school. And also, Percy's stepdad, Gabe, is, like, abusive, horrible, don't like him. She's like, Percy, why don't we go on a little vacation to celebrate the end of school? And so she's like, we're gonna go down to Montauk, which is, like, a beach sort of area. That it's, like, in Long Island, I'm pretty sure. And so she's like, let's go down to Montauk for the weekend, you know, like, live it up. Percy's like, oh, love that, Mom. And so they go to Montauk, and basically Percy's, like, explaining to his mom, like, what happened, and she's like, oh, Percy, it's fine, like, don't even worry about it. And he's like, okay. Basically, it's just really weird. And as they're driving down to Montauk, it's, like, dark, it's at night, they're seeing, like, things running past. They're like, oh, what was that? They don't know, so they just kind of ignore it. They get to the cabin. Suddenly, Grover shows up, and Percy's like, what are you doing? And guess what? Grover has goat legs. Grover has goat legs, which, Percy's, again, confused. Percy's so confused, and no one's explaining anything to him. But it's revealed that Grover is a satyr, which is, like, half human, half goat kind of vibe. And he is like, guys, we gotta run. But I guess before I'll talk about why they have to run, there's this thing, a really important concept in the Percy Jackson universe called the mist, which is, like, it's kind of just like the excuse for why humans can't see all the godly and demigodly stuff. You know what I'm saying? So like, but even the mist works on demigods sometimes, and that's an important detail to remember. That like, demigods aren't immune to the mist, but they just can see through it more often than mortals can. And so this whole time, Percy, like, it was the mist, and he just saw Grover's like legs, and he was like, oh, you're human. He didn't see goat legs the whole time because of the mist, but now he sees through it, and he sees that Grover is a satyr. That's kind of the whole thing. And so Grover's like, we gotta run, because basically the Minotaur is chasing them, of course. The Minotaur is chasing them, and it's what was chasing them the whole time they were driving to Montauk. And Grover's like, Percy, we gotta get you to camp. Also, I'm pretty sure Sally knows about camp, which, like, I don't really know why Sally knows, because there's a lot of stuff throughout the books that, like, Sally is just very aware of the demigod world, and she, like, has spoken to Chiron or something. Like, I don't know. But she, like, knows about Camp Half-Blood. I don't know. Because, like, in the beginning of the second book, it's implied that there was some communication between her and Chiron, so I'm like, you guys don't know who Chiron is yet. It's never mind. Whatever. So I don't know why Sally knows or how Sally knows, but whatever. Grover's like, I gotta get you to the place where you're gonna be safe and away from the Minotaur. And Percy's like, what about my mom? And so they're like running. They're running, and the Minotaur's there. And basically the Minotaur kind of kills Sally Jackson. Sally Jackson is kind of dead. She kind of like fizzles out, like literally in front of Percy's eyes. And Percy's like, and it's important detail to note that it's raining while all of this happens, and so Percy still has the pen sword thing, which is called Riptide, but I don't think he's named it yet, but it's eventually named Riptide. And so he uses his sword and he kills the Minotaur. By the way, Percy's 12 years old, kills the Minotaur. Interesting, very interesting. I guess I should say Grover also looks like a 12-year-old, but satyrs age differently, so he's probably more like 16 kind of vibe, but he also acts very young, so like it's fine. So yeah, Percy kills the Minotaur. He's like wounded a lot, and Grover like passes out, but they eventually cross this like border to this camp that Percy doesn't know what it is or like what's going on. Again, for like a lot of this book, no one explains anything to Percy. And so he like gets into this camp and he kind of just like passes out, but before he passes out, he hears a conversation between Mr. Brunner and Annabeth Chase, who I'm gonna put right there. Annabeth Chase, who is my second favorite character in this series. She's like actually my hero, and that's not a joke. So I'm like skipping chapters here. Oh my god, I'm losing my whole format. Okay. Chapter 3 was Grover unexpectedly loses his parents, which is where he finds out that he has goat legs. Chapter 4 is My Mother Teaches Me Bullfighting, which is the Minotaur and his mom dies. Now we are on to chapter 5. I play Pinnacle, I don't know how to say it, with a horse. And so that's basically, so Percy passes out at the edge of camp. He's like safe, but he passes out and he hears Annabeth talking to Mr. Brunner. And she basically says, is he the one? Like, could he be the one? And Mr. Brunner's like, I don't know, child, go to sleep, or something like that. And so basically a few days later, Percy wakes up in the infirmary of this camp. And he's like, what's going on? And so he sees Annabeth again. And Annabeth's first words to him are, you drool when you sleep. Which is, like, on every, like, Tumblr post ever. So Annabeth's there, and she's basically like, welcome to Camp Half-Blood. You're a demigod. And he's like, what? He's like, what? He does not know what's happening at all. And Annabeth is kind of like very Annabeth at him, and she's like, what do you know? Like, who are you? What did you do? And he's like, I don't know what's going on. And so basically they go out of the infirmary. He's like, okay, this girl's like crazy. And he sees Mr. Brunner, and he sees that Mr. Brunner is by the way, Mr. Brunner this whole time has been in a wheelchair, and Mr. Brunner, okay, like, pops out of the wheelchair and is a centaur. So, it's, like, yeah, like, then it's very much the mist coming into play, because, like, he's a centaur, you mean, like, his whole half of his horse body fit into a wheelchair? Like, it doesn't really make sense, but that's why this thing's here, because it's not Mr. Brunner, it's actually Chiron, who is, like, in Greek, he's, like, an actual person in Greek mythology. He trained Achilles. He's basically just, like, this trainer of heroes in actual Greek mythology. And so, in PJO, he's the trainer of the heroes at the summer camp. And so, that's really funny. And so, Chiron, and then there's also Mr. D, who I don't have a card for, unfortunately, but Mr. D is Dionysus, the god of wine and, like, alcohol, and he's just this kind of old, very jaded sort of guy who's at this camp against his will, and he's, like, directing the camp, and he hates kids. He hates Percy specifically, and he hates Camp Half-Blood, and he's really funny. So, Chiron and Mr. D are there, and I think it's Annabeth, Chiron, and Mr. D are all kind of just, like, explaining a bit to him. They don't really explain the full thing yet, but they're basically like, look, everyone here, one of their parents is mortal and one of them is a god, a Greek god, that, like, and Chiron's like, all the stuff I taught you in Latin class, like, it's all real, all that kind of stuff. So they explain it to him a little bit, but then they're kind of just, like, introducing him to the camp. That's kind of the vibe. And you know what? I think I'm going to explain a bit of Annabeth's backstory right now. It's not explained like this in the book, but I think it'll just make it easier to explain it right now. So basically, this story really includes Annabeth and, where's Luke? Luke, who's another camper at camp. And it includes, hold on, we're coming. And it includes, where is she? Talia Grace. So, all of their backstories are kind of combined, and it also involves Grover, but obviously Grover's already up here. So basically, when Percy and Annabeth are both 12, by the way. Grover is, like, however old he is, like 16, I don't know. And then Luke is about 17, and Talia is dead. So, let me get into it. So, Annabeth, when she was 7, ran away from home because her dad is mortal, her stepmom, like, lived with them, and then her 2 stepbrothers, but her mother is Athena, goddess of wisdom and battle strategy. And so at 7 years old, she was basically having, like, it wasn't even, like, nightmares, it was literally just, like, she was having, like, what is it called? Like, visions, but it was, like, happening in real life, where she was seeing things that weren't there. And this is kind of explained a lot, in Heroes of Olympus, rather than this series, but she was, like, seeing, like, spiders and stuff, which is, like, one of Athena, like, children of Athena's biggest fears is spiders, because of a whole Greek myth about it. And so she was, like, seeing all these spiders, and she was like, her parents, like, basically wouldn't help her, and, like, kind of didn't believe her, but she was, like, being traumatized, and so she ran away from home, because her parents didn't really care about her. And on the run, this little 7-year-old Annabeth, while on the run, she ran into Luke Castellan and Talia Grace, who, at the time, he was probably 12, and she was probably 10? Yeah, something around there. And so, they are, like, they're both demigods as well, and so they're like, Annabeth, you're like us, and they kind of all become a little team on the run, these little kids, just trying to fight monsters and find somewhere safe to stay. And so they started in Virginia. Annabeth grew up in Virginia, and so that's where they found her. I don't know where they come. Talia's from California. I don't remember where his mom lives. It's like revealed where he lives, but I don't remember. And so they're all a little team. Eventually they come up a little more and they get into the New York area. And that's where Grover finds them, because Grover as a satyr is, like, a protector, and so satyrs' jobs are to go and find demigods and bring them to Camp Half-Blood and, like, make sure they're safe and all that. And so he finds them, basically, and they're, like, getting really close to camp, and he's like, okay, we're about to get it, but then eventually a monster, it was some kind of cyclops, came and attacked them right before they got to camp, and basically Talia kind of sacrificed herself so that Annabeth, Luke, and Grover could get into camp safely. And so Talia died, and Talia was a child of Zeus, and so Zeus created a little tree at the edge of camp, which is like Talia's tree. It's like a pine tree, and it is kind of, I guess the magic involves the tree, but it's like it creates like a barrier around camp that protects it from monsters, which, like, I don't know if they didn't have a barrier before Talia died, but like that's what it does in the current era. Like Talia's tree like protects the camp. And also, I do just want to add that Talia's tree, like, everyone kind of had the same vision in their head of just like a pine tree, but in the trailer for the show, the tree, it has like I can't even explain it. It's like, it looks like there's like a girl like in the tree. It's like kind of terrifying, but I kind of love it. It's just like kind of spooky and like haunting, which like it should be because she died there. But like, yeah. So Annabeth has basically been at camp since she was like 7-8 years old-ish. She's one of like the youngest people to be there. And her and Luke are just really close, and her and Grover also just have that connection. So that's kind of the background you need to know there. Yeah. So that's chapter 5. We're on to chapter 6. I became Supreme Lord of the Bathroom. Iconic moment. Basically, did it happen? Hold on. No, the musical does it a little bit differently, but what happens here is basically he's just kind of like getting a little bit more comfortable with camp. He's like exploring a little bit, seeing what they got like archery, Pegasus flying, defense classes. They got like a mess hall. They have the big house, which is kind of like people don't really hang out in there, but it's like where Chiron and Mr. D stay, and it's like kind of where they have like meetings if they need to. And yeah, so he's kind of just getting a little more comfortable with camp, and he meets this girl named Clarice LaRue, who is a daughter of Ares. I'm gonna put her right there. Clarice LaRue, who's a daughter of Ares, and she is a boss. She basically, like, child of Ares is like the god of war, and so she's very like, I will fight you kind of vibe. And so I don't know why it happened, but she is mad because he got to fight the Minotaur on like his first day, whatever. And so basically she ends up, they're like in a bathroom, and he like explodes a toilet on her, and everyone's like, how did he do that? Like, come on, put the pieces together. And that's what happens in that chapter. That's what I became Supreme Lord of the Bathroom means. And I think also during this is like, there's a line in it where Luke, after it happens, Luke goes up and he's like, Percy Jackson, Supreme Lord of the Bathroom. And so basically Luke is kind of like becoming a bit of a mentor for Percy, just because he's like 17 and Percy's like 12. And so, oh, by the way, Luke is a child of Hermes, which, this is important actually. Hermes, like, has demigod children, but also any kids that aren't claimed by their godly parent go in the Hermes cabin. So it's like a bunch of like random kids. And so and also Hermes like spoke to Luke like once, and it was not a good situation, which we learn in the 5th book, so we'll get to that later. But yeah, so Luke feels very neglected. Yeah. We're on to chapter 7. My dinner goes up in smoke. Basically, they just go to the mess hall. They have dinner. Luke and Percy form a bit more of a bond, and he learns that, like, at camp, they, like, throw their food into the fire as, like, an offering to the gods, and that's what that means. Chapter 8, we capture a flag. Iconic. Because, okay, one of the most iconic things about Camp Half-Blood is their Capture the Flag games. They do these, like, brutal, like, in Greek armor with swords and stuff, Capture the Flag games. And so basically, Percy is on Annabeth's team. I think most of these characters are on the same team other than Clarice. Clarice is, like, the leader of the other team. Annabeth is the leader of their team. And so Clarice and Annabeth are, like, going at each other because they're both bosses. Oh my god, wait, my foot is on everything. Okay. And so basically they're doing the Capture the Flag, and, like, Annabeth is like, Percy, just like stay over there and just like wait. Like Annabeth is like, we don't want you ruining this for us. And so Percy just kind of like stands there, and then eventually people come at him and starts fighting, and then he this is how I'm remembering it from the movie. I don't remember if this is how it happened in the book, but like basically he like gets pushed into like the creek or something, and then he like regains power, and he like takes them all out. It's like crazy, and then like after a few seconds, like he defeats them all when he takes the flag or something, and he like passes out again, and I'm just like, wait, Percy, she's like, go back in the water, and he goes back in the water, and suddenly he feels fine again. And hold on, okay, yeah, and then she's like, oh my god, she's like, I had a suspicion, but I didn't really think it could be you. And he's like, what are you talking about? And basically that is when he gets claimed by his godly parent, who is, drum roll, where is he, Poseidon. Who would have thought? We'll put Poseidon next to Sally. So Percy's godly parent is Poseidon, which I know I spelled wrong. I'll just throw that out there. So, yeah, Percy Jackson's son of Poseidon. I'm the son of Poseidon. That's the song for the musical. And then chapter 9 is called I'm Offered a Quest. I mean, kind of self-explanatory. The only things that really are important to state is that, oh, okay, actually there is a lot to say. Basically, the whole drama of this book is that, oh, I guess we have to put some, wait, there's so much going on. So, now that we know his father is Poseidon, let's get a little bit of godly heritage up in here. I can't put it over here. I guess I can. So, Poseidon's brothers are really what we need to talk about a little bit here. Poseidon's brothers are Zeus and Hades. And so, gods are like, all, like, they love the drama. They're always, like, fighting with each other and stuff. And so, Zeus, Hades, and Poseidon are always fighting a lot because they're brothers. And so, Zeus's lightning bolt, his, like, item, like, if these were, like, if the Greek gods were, like, playing cards, it would be his, like, item that he has. His lightning bolt has been stolen. And the tea is that gods can't steal each other's items, but, like, mortals wouldn't be able to do it. And so it has to be a demigod. And so Zeus is like, why would a demigod on purpose steal my thing? And so he's like, I know one of you put one of your kids up to this. And so as of right now, we aren't aware of any of Hades' children. So they're like, well, can't be Hades. Suddenly this kid shows up who's a son of Poseidon. And Zeus is like, I know that kid stole my lightning bolt. And so Zeus is all mad at Percy. Percy, like, literally doesn't even know what's going on. And so basically, Chiron is like, well, since you're the son of Poseidon, you're going to be going on a quest. Woo! And you're going to go find Zeus' lightning bolt because, like, Chiron's like, I know you didn't steal it, but, like, you got to find who stole it or Zeus is going to, like, let out his wrath on you. And so Percy's like, okay. And so, he goes up to the Oracle, which is, like, Oracle, it basically is like a mummy in the attic of the big house that gives, I'm just gonna put Oracle here. The Oracle basically gives prophecies to demigods who are going on quests. And so, Percy's like sent up to the Oracle, and the Oracle basically gives Percy a prophecy that when, like, it basically states that he's gonna go west to California to meet Hades. I'm, like, paraphrasing this, by the way. And so he has to go find Hades and, like, talk to him about, like, do you have the bolt? And then he's gonna find the thing that was stolen and see it, like, restored. And then, he's gonna be betrayed by one of his friends, and then he's gonna fail to save what matters most in the end. That's basically what the prophecy says. And so, Percy's like, because the first two are good. He's like, okay, go to California, meet Hades, gonna restore it, period. But then it's like betrayed by a friend and fail to say what matters most in the end. Okay. Because here's the thing. So Percy, again, loves his mom so much, and his mom is now dead. And that's, like, really obviously affecting him. And so Percy's like, I can go to California and meet Hades. Maybe I can get him to give me, like, save my mom and bring her back. And so he's like, period, I'm gonna go talk to Hades. But, like, there's a line in the prophecy that says, you will fail to save what matters most in the end. And so Percy's like, that's not good. And so basically, on every quest, there's, like, you're supposed to go in a group of 3, because it's just, like, superstition, I guess. So Grover, Percy, and Annabeth are all the ones that go. Because Percy chooses Grover because Grover's his best friend, and the Annabeth is like, I'm going with you. Because Annabeth really loves, like, she wants to prove herself. That's, like, her main thing forever, is that she just wants to prove herself. So yeah. Moving on. Chapter 10 is I Ruin... Okay, this is the part of the book where we can kind of speed through. Chapter 10 is I Ruin a Perfectly Good Bus. Basically, they get on a bus in New York, and they go down to New Jersey, and they fight with some Furies on the bus, and the bus explodes. Chapter 11, we visit the Garden Gnome Emporium. This is also one of the most iconic scenes in the movie. They, again, are stranded in New Jersey, and this lady comes out, and she's like, hey, I can help you, and they're like, period, let's get some help from this lady. One thing leads to another. She's manipulating them a little bit, and it turns out that she is Medusa. And so Medusa starts attacking them. They eventually escape her. I don't quite remember what happens in the book, but because the movie, this is the only part that the movie got right. In the movie, Percy has, like, an iPod, and he, like, shines the reflection at Medusa so she sees herself, and basically she gets turned into stone, because that's what Medusa does. And they take her head, like, they take her stone head, so that's fun. Number 12 is we get advice from a poodle, which I literally for the life of me cannot remember what that means, but they, like, end up getting, do they get bus tickets from the poodle? I'm pretty sure that's what happened. In the musical, the squirrel, like, tells them something about where they are, because they're, like, stranded in New Jersey still. I don't remember. So, yeah. Number 13 is I Plunge to My Death, which basically, somehow, this is why I'm like, did they get bus tickets somehow? They eventually end up in St. Louis, Missouri, because they end up at the St. Louis Arch, which, you know, is, like, the big thing. And they go up on the arch, because Annabeth loves architecture, so she's like, oh, we need to go see the arch. And so they go up on the arch, excuse me, and they get attacked again. And it ends up with... what happens is, like, the elevator is really full, and so Grover and Annabeth go in the elevator, but Percy's like, I'll catch the next one. He gets in an elevator with this lady, and then her dog turns into a chimera, and then he ends up jumping off the St. Louis Arch into the river, and he ends up, like, talking to, like, dryads or something, like, whatever the thing of the sea. It's, like, not mermaids, but it's, like, something of that sort, and... He gets a shell. He gets a shell from his dad or something. Yeah. No, chapter 14 is I Become a Known Fugitive, which I think is because he jumped off the St. Louis Arch. And, like, his stepdad, Gabe, as I said earlier, is horrible, and I think he's, like, saying stuff about him to the press. So that's fun. That's me. Chapter 15 is The God Buys Us Cheeseburgers, which this is when they meet the god that buys them cheeseburgers, which is Ares, who I will put near Clarice because it's her dad. So they essentially meet Ares, and he's like, hey dudes, like, I can help you out. And he, like, gives them a backpack full of stuff, and they're like, sweet. Annabeth is a little like, it's kind of gross. But they basically just get some help from Ares, and they're on their way. They're making it to California. And so then 16 is we take a... Wait. Okay. I don't remember what part this happens, but it's really important to me. There's this scene. I'm pretty sure it's before they talk to Ares. I'm not sure. At some point, they end up in an abandoned water park. And basically it's this scene where, like, Percy... I think it happened earlier. Excuse me. I don't know why they're in the water park, but, like, for some reason, there's like a tunnel of love thing. It's like a water ride, and Percy and Annabeth go on it together, and it's just such a funny scene because Annabeth's like, I'm not going on that with you, and he's like, I don't know why they had to go on it or something. But then they end up like getting attacked by spiders, and Annabeth is like her biggest fear of spiders, and so he's like, Percy's like protecting her and like all this stuff, and so it's just kind of like a bonding moment between them because like throughout the whole book, Annabeth is a little bit like combative towards Percy. My cough's coming back. She's kind of like combative towards Percy because she's trying to prove herself that she's like good at this quest, and she feels like Percy's like getting in her way. And it's not that she like hates him or anything, they just haven't had their little heart-to-heart moment yet, which is coming soon. Actually, it's in this chapter. So like they had that little moment in the tunnel of love thing, but then chapter 16 we take a zebra to Vegas. They get in this like zoo van sort of thing, and they're sitting next to a zebra, and basically Grover's like passed out asleep, and this is kind of when Percy and Annabeth connect for the first time, and they kind of just talk about their pasts a little bit, and like how much like why camp is so important to Annabeth and that kind of thing. And she ends up saying like, if the gods go to war, I'll be fighting on your side or something like that. And he's like, why? And she's like, because you're my friend. Any more stupid questions? And that's like the first time she ever like called him a friend and that kind of thing. So it's just like, it's just a really sweet moment. So yeah, that's that. And then I'm pretty sure this is also, I don't know, it happens in Vegas, and I know it happens before chapter 17. So like they eventually arrive in Vegas, and yeah, I guess that all happened in like one chapter. I remember it being a lot longer, but okay. They end up in Vegas, and they go into this thing called the Lotus Casino, which they go in and they're like, period, we can have somewhere to spend the night. And it turns out that like it's like a bit of a trickery sort of thing, and it's not just like, oh, we can just spend the night here. It's like, oh, you think you've been in here for an hour, but you've been in here for like 5 days. And so they eventually get out of there. But yeah, that's a little bit of a... And it's like, again, the movie, I know we hate the movie, but like the movie got that scene really good. Because like Poker Face or something by Lady Gaga's playing in the background, and they're in this like Las Vegas casino, and they're like, woo. So yeah. Next chapter is chapter 17, we shop for waterbeds. All I remember for this is they're like in California, I'm pretty sure. And they go into this like waterbed store. I'm like, I don't know why. They're like they're just trying to find the entrance to the underworld. And they're in this waterbed store, and it's like kind of scary. Like the dude like ties them up and like is like pulling their lips apart. Like it's actually really scary, but like they get out of it somehow. 18, Annabeth does in obedience school. Maybe in the book, is the entrance to the underworld in the waterbed store? Because in the musical, it's in, like, a record store. So, I don't know. But, okay, at 18, Annabeth does obedience schools. Basically, they get to the underworld, they're trying to go see Hades, and Cerberus, which is, like, the three-headed dog of the underworld, is, like, in their way. And Annabeth, like, she, like, throws a ball at him or something. Like, she, like, plays with the dog like a normal dog, even though it's, like, a huge, like, hellhound. And that's what that means. 19 is we find out the truth, sort of, which is when they talk to Hades, and Hades is like, dog, I don't have the bolt. And so they're, like, trying to figure it out. And again, I don't remember how this happens in the book. I remember how it happens in the musical. Basically, they figure out that Ares had the bolt. Ares had the bolt, and I don't know in the book if Ares gave it to Percy, but like in the musical, in the backpack that Ares gave that had like tools in it and stuff, the bolt was in there, and so he was kind of like framing Percy, which I don't know if that happened in the book or not, but yeah. And so they're like, Ares stole the bolt, this dude, like, we gotta get him. And so chapter 20 is called I Battle My Jerk Relative, and that's basically he fights Ares on a beach, and he's like 12 years old, and he beats Ares, which is so funny. 21 is called I Settle My Tab, which is, I'm not quite sure what that means. This is probably, he basically, I guess I settle my tab. He's like he returns the bolt to Zeus. And he's like, dog, I didn't do it. And I think that's when he meets Poseidon for the first time. So he's like in Olympus, and he's like, here you go. And so he's kind of just like clearing his name a bit, and he's like, everything's back to normal. He's done his duty. They completed the quest. Then chapter 22 is called, this is the last chapter in the book, chapter 22 is called The Prophecy Comes True, which is like vague and like, what does that mean? But basically, oh wait, actually before I talk about chapter 22, I'm going to talk about something else first, just because it all involves the prophecy. So like the first thing of the prophecy was like, you're going to go to California and meet Hades. Boom, they did that. The second thing was you'll find what was stolen and see it restored, which is them finding the bolt, giving it back to the gods. Boom, did it. And then the third line is you'll be betrayed by someone who's your friend. And that, we're not sure what happened yet, but the fourth line said, and you shall fail to save what matters most in the end. And basically what happens there is, while in the underworld, they see Sally Jackson, and they're like Percy's like, oh my god, I can save you now, but they don't quite do it. They're able to escape the underworld, but they aren't able to bring Sally with them. And so that's the like failing to save her. But in the end, eventually, because he succeeded, and now he's on Zeus and Poseidon's good side. I don't remember who does it, but it's probably Zeus. He's like able to get Sally back. Unless it's Hades that does it, but I don't remember Hades being that close with them. Like, Hades isn't that evil, but I don't think he just like gave up Sally. So, but eventually in the end, Sally does come back and she's back to life. But he technically failed to save her. Someone else saved her. So that's the whole thing. But now we're like, what friend is gonna betray him? Basically, I don't know how to tell this in a like cinematic or like great story way. Basically, Luke Castellan is a little snitch, and he set up Percy. And so like the whole time when he was like, Percy, I'll protect you, like we got this, he was like plotting to take him down. And so basically what happened was Luke stole the bolt, and because like Ares put him up to it, because Ares is the god of war, and so he just wants a war between the gods. And Luke also wants a war between the gods because, as I said, he hates his dad, he hates Hermes, and he hates all the gods because they don't treat their kids the way they should. And so that led him to become like evil. And so he wants to get back at the gods, and so he teams up with Ares to steal the bolt. And basically, I don't remember how it happened, but like he's also working with, hold up, let me pull it up. He's also working with Kronos, who is like the big bad villain of all of Greek mythology. Let's put him here. Kronos is also Chiron's father, but Kronos is like the father of like everyone. Like I'm pretty sure he's also Zeus, Poseidon, and Hades' father. He's is he Hera's father? I don't know. But yeah. So Luke's evil, and basically it's like in chapter 22, the last chapter, Luke brings Percy out into the woods because they're just like talking, and he ends up like revealing all of this to him, and he throws a scorpion at him, and he like poisons Percy and runs away. And Percy eventually like makes his way back to camp even though he's like dying, and he like passes out at the edge of the forest. But since he was like able to make it that far, they found him and they healed him, and so like Percy ended up being fine, but like Luke truly did try to kill him, and now Luke is just gone and evil. So yeah. Basically the only other thing that happened was Annabeth, who like as we know doesn't get on with her family that well, ended up going back to her, like Percy ended up convincing her that like she should give living with her family another try. Because also, here's another thing I didn't explain. At Camp Half-Blood, you can either stay for the summer, like Percy does, or you can just stay year-round, like Annabeth typically does. But at the end of the summer, Percy convinces her that she should give living with her family another try. since she hasn't seen them since she was 7. So they both go home for the summer, and then that's where the book ends. I said I was gonna make that concise, and I did not at all. So yeah, that's what happened. Whoa! Okay, before I get into the plot of the Sea of Monsters, I'm gonna add 2 characters to the board that aren't, like, they're honestly not relevant at all in the Sea of Monsters, but I was gonna add them when I was talking about the first book, but then I forgot. So these are 2 campers that are just, like, not in the background. They're just, like, there's a lot of campers at camp that are named. Like, there's, like, Travis and Connor Stoll. There's, like, Katie Gardner. There's, like, other people that are, like, named that are campers. But Selena Beauregard and Charlie Beckendorf, oh my god, Charlie Beckendorf are 2 campers that are there since the beginning, but don't really have a major role until, like, later in the series. So I'm just gonna put them up there now, just so they're there and you know that they're there from the beginning. So yeah, but they don't really have anything to do with book 2. But yeah, moving on to the Sea of Monsters. So this, I think, is, like, generally perceived as the worst book in the series. It's like, it's the shortest. It kind of has the least going on. Like, it's a necessary book in the story. But it's mainly, like, it has good character moments, and I think that's, like, the main highlight of it. So yeah, Sea of Monsters, let's go. So this shouldn't take me too long to summarize, but it probably will, knowing me. So we're just gonna get straight into chapter 1. Chapter 1 is called My Best Friend Shops for a Wedding Dress. So this book starts, it's the morning of the last day of school for Percy. So, like, from the Lightning Thief, like, the Lightning Thief ended at the end of summer, and then a whole school year has gone by, and now it's the last day of school, and we start this book. That's what the timeline is. And so Percy's 13 now, and he's like, he basically has a dream the night before the last day of school of his best friend Grover in trouble, and Grover is in a wedding dress, which isn't really explained until the end of the book, so that's what the, like, shopping for a wedding dress thing is. But he has a dream, or, like, more of a vision, kind of, that Grover is in trouble, and it's because of this thing called an empathy link, which Grover has created with Percy, because it's, like, it's a thing you can create with someone that you're, like, really close to, and you can, like, connect with them through your mind, sort of thing. So Grover's, like, calling out to Percy for help, and Percy's like, what? And then he kind of wakes up, and so he's like, I don't know where Grover is, I don't know what's going on. But he's, like, talking to his mom. He's like, the school he goes to now, he was expelled out of his last school, and so he's in a new school now. It's in the city, and so he lives with Sally rather than being at a boarding school. So he's talking to his mom. He's like, it's crazy, like, I just can't wait to get back to Camp Half-Blood. And she's like, oh, you might not be going back there. And he's like, what? Because at this point, like, Percy loves Camp Half-Blood. Like, he felt very, like, he really fit in there last year. All his friends are there. So he's like, why am I not going to Camp Half-Blood? And she's like, oh, don't worry about it. And so that's kind of chapter 1. And then, okay, and then another thing is, like, he's, like, walking to school, whatever, and he sees this, like, she feels like there's, like, a shadow following him or something. And he just, like, keeps seeing things out of the corner of his eye. And that's chapter 1. Chapter 2 is called I Played Dodgeball with Cannibals. So basically chapter 2 takes place during, like, his last day of school. He's in gym class, and we are introduced to his friend Tyson. So, like, as we know, the year before, his best friend at school was Grover, but this year Grover's obviously not going to school with him anymore, because he's like Percy, he's not really protecting Percy anymore. He's more like, Percy kind of knows what's going on now, so he can protect himself. So his new friend is Tyson. And Tyson's kind of similar to Grover. He's still kind of the, like, just kind of misfit. Like, him and Percy are just kind of, like, bullied. And so they're just, like, sticking together. And so Percy's, like, at school, and as I said, he gets bullied. And so they're in gym class, and they're playing this game of dodgeball, and there's, like, these really mean kids who are, like, those kids in gym class who are, like, really into it. And so he's just getting, like, pummeled, and, like, basically turns out that the bullies are, like, literal monsters, and I forget what they are, but they're cannibals. They're, like, it comes back in one of the Heroes of Olympus books. They're, like, from Canada, and they're, like, some sort of, like, giant. I don't know. But they're like throwing flames or something, and Tyson's like defending Percy, and Percy's like, you're literally being hit by flames right now, what's going on? And then then from the smoke of the school out comes Annabeth Chase, and Percy's like, what are you doing here? And basically, I forgot to mention this in the first book, but Annabeth's like, she's a daughter of Athena, so her only real power is like being smart. And so other than that, she's also really good with a knife, but the only like literal power she has is this Yankees hat that she has that makes her go invisible. And so the shadow that was following Percy all day was literally just Annabeth following him around. And so she pops out when he's being attacked by these things. She saves him, and he's like, Annabeth, why are you following me? Like, he's like, what are you doing? And she's like, don't even worry about it. And so she gets Tyson and Percy out of there. And then Annabeth's like acting really weird to Tyson, and Percy's like, hello? Like, what is your problem? And she's like, but she's like, Percy, look at him. And again, the whole mist thing, very similar to what happened with Grover. He like finally like really looks at Tyson and discovers that Tyson is a Cyclops. Like, he literally didn't he just did not notice that Tyson was a Cyclops. And so that's the whole thing. And so that's kind of like Annabeth, like, it's not revealed right away, but Annabeth is very, very mean to Tyson, because she doesn't like Cyclopses, which I guess I kind of already talked about it, but basically it's revealed later in the book. But the reason why she hates Cyclopses so much is because the Cyclops is the monster that Talia sacrificed herself against when Annabeth, Luke, and Grover were coming into camp for the first time. And so like a Cyclops killed Talia, and since then Annabeth's just like really hated Cyclopses. So that's why she's so anti-Tyson. But yeah, I'm getting ahead of myself. Am I? Okay, so like chapter 2 was like the in the school thing. Chapter 3 is they hail, I don't know, it has a name, oh my god, I forget what it's called, but it's like the three sisters, the Grey Sisters, that's what it's called. It's these three sisters that share one eye. They're like they're kind of like fates in a way. Are they fates? I don't know, but they like, it's like they drive a taxi thing, and so demigods sometimes catch this taxi when they need to get to camp, but it's like super chaotic and it's like crazy. So in the taxis, when Annabeth's like hating on Tyson, Percy's like, what's going on? And then chapter 5 is called, chapter 4 is called Tyson Plays with Fire. Right, okay, yes, chapter 5 is called Tyson Plays, Chapter 4 is called Tyson Plays with Fire. They arrive at camp, and there's this like monster bull inside the camp, which is like not supposed to happen, because Talia's tree casts like a protection thing on camp so that nothing can get in. But there's a bull in camp, and it's like really concerning, and it like breathes fire basically. And so Tyson, being a Cyclops, their whole thing is that they like forge metals and whatever, and like fire and stuff. And so he's kind of like immune to fire, and so he like stops it. So that's what Tyson Plays with Fire means. Chapter 5 is called I Get a New Cabin Mate. Basically Percy's at camp. They're like, he at some point gets a little like snappy with Tyson. Like, he like starts to hate on Tyson a little bit, but I don't remember when. But it's like basically Poseidon claims Tyson as his child, which I've never really understood, but like, sure. So like chapter 5, I Get a New Cabin Mate, is because Tyson is also in the Poseidon cabin. It's really funny. And so like Tyson and Percy are like kind of like half brothers. I don't know. Then chapter 6 is called Demon Pigeons Attack. Okay, so basically this is a thing. They do a chariot race, like, you know, Kim Pavla is all about the competitions and the like Greek sports and whatnot. And so they have a chariot race where there's teams. I'm pretty sure it's just pairs. They all build chariots, and then they like race them around a track. And so Percy and Annabeth are a team, obviously. And then like Clarice has a team with someone. I'm pretty sure Selena has a team with someone. You know, like everyone's got a team, and they're all doing it. And then basically they start doing the race, and these pigeons start attacking everyone. And it turns out there's some sort of like monster bird that like should not be in camp, but like is, because something's going wrong. And so like Percy and Annabeth like kind of like stop focusing on the race to like, you know, like fight the pigeons, whereas Clarice, where is she? Clarice just like keeps going. And so Clarice ends up winning the race. But like, yeah, that's what happened. And then I guess this is kind of already announced. Like early, like at some point it's told to Percy that the camp is like malfunctioning, and that's why Sally was like, I don't know if you're going to camp this year, because it's like not working. Like the protective barrier is not working because Talia's tree is dying. Someone poisoned Talia's tree. And so that's why like the barrier's not working and it's all going wrong. And so basically at some point, the gods were like, well, Chiron, this is your fault. And Chiron's like, oh, what? And so they kick Chiron out. They replace him with someone. And Tantalus. Yes. Tantalus replaces Chiron. Which I don't have a card for him. Who cares about him? He's just kind of like this weird kind of dude. Yeah. So, yeah. Then we go into chapter 7. At some point, either in 6 or 7, Annabeth and Percy, mainly Annabeth, come up with a plan on like how to fix Talia's tree. And so Annabeth is like, this golden fleece, this is a really good idea. Basically the golden fleece is a thing in Greek mythology that has like healing powers. And so she's like, if we get the golden fleece, then we can like put it on the tree and we can save the camp. And so they like plan this whole thing out. They find like coordinates and all this stuff. And so at the campfire one night, Percy and Annabeth stand up and they're like, we have an idea. And Tantalus is like, okay. And so they start explaining their idea to the whole camp, and everyone's like, a period. And but like, I love that scene. It's just, they're just so cute. Them like talking about like saving the camp and all this stuff. And then Tantalus is like, wow, this is a really good idea. Someone needs to get a quest. And Percy and Annabeth are like, yeah, so like, can we have a quest? And he's like, oh no, you're not getting the quest. And they're like, what? And Tantalus is like, no, I think Clarice should get the quest because she won the chariot race. And so Clarice, bless her heart, Clarice gets sent on the quest instead, rather than Percy and Annabeth, who planned the whole thing. So yeah, I don't know what the prophecy was for this book, even if it even was one, because like Clarice got the prophecy. I'm thinking there's not one. Yeah, it doesn't really, oh my god, it doesn't really matter. But, so, like, Clarice ends up getting this quest. And then, chapter 7, I cannot for the life of me remember why this happened, but basically, Percy one night meets Hermes, Luke's dad, also the god of, like, messaging? I don't know. He's, like, the god of communication and, like, something like that. And so he, like, Percy meets Hermes, and Hermes basically is like, I want you to go out and find Luke and like save him, like it's not too late to save him, sort of thing. Hermes feels like very guilty of that Luke, because now at this point everyone knows that Luke is like against the gods, and that's like his whole thing. So Hermes is like, feels bad about it and wants to get Luke on the right path. So he's like, Percy, you should go out and do this for me. And he like gives Percy some tools or something to help him on a quest. And then basically in that chapter, Percy boards his Pegasus named Blackjack, and he's like on the beach, and he's like, okay, let's go. And then Annabeth, it's like midnight, she's like, hold up, I'm coming too. So Annabeth ends up coming with them, and I think Tyson comes, but doesn't Grover come too? Oh wait, Grover's missing. I forgot about Grover missing. Okay, Grover's at the Cyclops place still. It's like a big like mountainy sort of thing. So it's Percy, Annabeth, and Tyson. They all embark on this quest. And so that is chapter whatever. That's chapter 7, I guess. Chapter 8 is called We Board the Princess Andromeda. Oh my god, the Princess Andromeda, which is the ship that Luke is currently on. So basically Luke like ran away from camp, obviously, and then he's now on this ship called the Princess Andromeda, which has like a bunch of Kronos' army on it and all this kind of stuff. And so they get on this boat somehow and they're like sneaking around it. That's how I remember it. And I remember like, I don't know if they knew that Luke was on it from the beginning, but they eventually like overhear Luke having a conversation, and it really like Annabeth really gets upset by that, which I didn't include this detail from the first book because it's so like should be so irrelevant, but Annabeth like kind of had a crush on Luke in the beginning because she was like 12, but okay here's the thing, she's 12, he's 17, and so she just kind of had this like middle school sort of crush on him just because he was like her hero in a way. But yeah, we'll circle back to that later. So yeah, like Annabeth really like was very, very hurt by Luke turning on them. So yeah, that's kind of all I remember from chapter 8. Chapter 9 is I Have the Worst Family Reunion Ever, which I think, hold on, it's coming to me. There's some sort of monsters that's like, I'm pretty sure that's still on the Princess Andromeda. But it's basically like some sort of people who are related to him, because that could literally be anyone, like Greek mythology, everyone's related to each other. So I don't really remember what that means, but they like have a fight on the boat or something. And that's the best scene from the second Percy Jackson movie, when they're like fighting and Luke is like, dude, get off my roof, or something like that. Yeah. So that's chapter 9. Sorry, I don't really remember that one. Chapter 10 is called We Hitch a Ride with Dead Confederates, which is like they get on this other boat that has like ghost Confederates on it. And okay, as I said before, Clarice was given the quest, whereas Annabeth, Percy, and Tyson are just like going on it like kind of not illegally, but like against the rules. And the whole thing is like it like the thing was that if they left camp to go on the quest, they would be like kicked out of camp and they weren't allowed to go back. And so like they're risking a lot here. And so they eventually find Clarice, and she's kind of slaying the quest. Like she's got stuff going for her. She is on a ship with a bunch of dead ghosts, and that's like her way of getting to the Cyclops headquarters sort of thing. This page is like about to fall off. I'm like scared. Anyway, so that's what We Hitch a Ride with Dead Confederates means. And then chapter 11 is called Clarice Blows Up Everything, which I don't remember. They have some sort of fight on that boat too. There's a lot. I guess I should mention, they figure out that the place where Grover's being held and where the Fleece is and where the Cyclopses are, it's in the Bermuda Triangle, and so it's like in the middle of the ocean. So that's why there's so many boats. And Luke is also trying to find the Fleece, I'm pretty sure. So yeah. So that's chapter 11. I don't really remember what happened there. Chapter 12 is called We Check Into Cece's Spa and Resort, which this is one of the most iconic chapters from this book. Basically, Cece, okay, they don't know this yet, but Cece, who like they call her Cece for the first bit, they think that's her name, is actually Circe, who is like, I don't know what she is in Greek mythology, but she's some sort of like, she's some maiden who like tricks men. So like play, but basically her whole thing is that her spa is like in the middle of nowhere. And it's like whoever comes up upon it, it's normally like pirates or like sailors. She lures them in and turns them into guinea pigs. That's her whole shtick. And so basically Percy and Annabeth go in, and she like splits them up, and she's like, Percy, you go over there, Annabeth, come with me. She gives Annabeth this whole makeover. Annabeth looks gorgeous. She's in like like Greek robes and all this stuff. And then Percy is turned into a guinea pig. And basically like it's like Annabeth is like, what's going on? She kind of figures out that something isn't right. She's like, where's Percy? And Cersei's like, it doesn't matter. Yeah, but then Annabeth eventually finds out. She's like looking at guinea pigs and she's like, is that Percy? And so they get out of there. Something about that chapter is there's a character who is in the spa, the resort thing, who's like literally she's not mentioned in the book, she's not named, but she is there canonically, and it literally comes back in like the second or third Heroes of Olympus book, that character that was there. So like it's such a cool callback, so random and fun. But yeah, so they eventually escape there, and she's like, I'm glad you're not a guinea pig, seaweed brain. So cute. And then chapter 13 is called Annabeth Tries to Swim Home. This is another really good scene. So at this point, I don't know where Tyson is. Like, I could not tell you. But, okay, so Annabeth Tries to Swim Home is basically Annabeth, they're on a boat again. They're on another boat, and they're sailing, and they're on their way, and then they like come across the sirens, like the sirens, and it's a whole thing that like, you know what sirens are. They like sing and lure you into your death. And so Annabeth is like, she's like, I want to hear what it is. Like, she wants to hear the siren song and like survive it, because she's all about like being the best and doing the impossible and stuff like that. So she does it, and then what happens? So she's like, Percy, put me on this rope and then throw me out to sea. So she's like attached by a rope, which they're like, so she can't like go to her death if she's on a rope. And it's like crazy. Annabeth's like, I'm gonna be screaming for help, so Percy, put this like stuff in your ears so you don't hear me. So Percy is like, okay, sure. So he's like standing at the top of the boat, like on the deck, and he's got like stuff in his ears, and he's like not looking at her, because she's like, whatever I do, like don't bring me back in. So he's like, okay. And so like literally someone's running upstairs. It's fine. Okay. She's like out there, and then basically he like looks down and she's gone. Like the rope is like cut off because he forgot to take her knife. So she's just out there and she's swimming towards the sirens, and he's like, oh, him being the son of Poseidon, he can kind of like, he has an advantage. And so he goes out and he like forms like an air bubble and like takes them down to the bottom of the ocean. And down there they have a really emotional conversation about like what she saw and her like deepest fears and her like her fatal flaw, essentially, which is like every demigod has a fatal flaw that's related to their godly parent. Like Percy's is loyalty, which is a pretty good like fatal flaw, but Annabeth's is, whoa, okay, wind. Annabeth's is hubris, which is like it's like she has like so much pride that it's like to her downfall, that like she wants to be again, like she wants to be the greatest, she wants to do the impossible, she wants to like be the best. And so she had this vision of like her building an entire city, because she wants to be an architect and like stuff like that, and her like being with her family and it being like reunited, and like all the things that like upset her and her insecurities and stuff are just like perfect, and like Luke was with her again and like all this stuff. And so she kind of just like admitted all of that to him at the bottom of the ocean. It's really, really cute. So yeah, that's chapter 13. Chapter 14 is called We Meet the Sheep of Doom. I quite literally have no clue what happens during that, but I think, here's what I think happened. They eventually get to the Cyclops' lair, and the Sheep of Doom. That's really interesting. I don't know. Like they eventually get to the Cyclops lair, and like they save Grover, and Tyson dies for like a split second, but he eventually comes back. So like it ends up being fine, but like they think he died. So I don't know if that's what that means, but like there is sheep at some point, because it's like the fleece, you know what I'm saying? Chapter 15 is called Nobody Gets the Fleece, which I'm not quite sure what that means either, but I know what I think it is Percy, Annabeth, and Tyson, or I guess Tyson may be dead, I don't know, eventually, like, reconnect with Clarice, like, they're together again at some point, and Clarice, they give Clarice the fleece, and they let her take it home, because they, like, only have enough money for one plane ticket or something, and so they're like, Clarice, you should take it because it's your quest, so they're, like, nice to Clarice and all this stuff, and so nobody gets the fleece. It's kind of like, they don't get it, they just give it to Clarice. Chapter 16 is called I Go Down with the Ship. I have actually no clue what that means. See, this is what I mean, like, it's kind of just like, they're just, like, on ships a lot of the book. So, yeah. Chapter 17 is called We Get a Surprise on Miami Beach. It's, like, in my head. They, like, call someone. They do an I am to Chiron, I believe, and then chapter 18 is called The Party Ponies Invade, which are, like, these crazy centaurs who are related to Chiron, because I guess all centaurs are related, but they show up and, like, save them from Luke's gang. Chapter 19 is called The Chariot Race Ends with a Bang. They do another chariot race, basically, and Tantalus is gone and Chiron's back. Eventually, so, okay, they all come back to camp. Eventually, like, they defeat Luke for now. Clarice has the fleece, all this stuff. Chariot race ends with a bang. So they do the chariot race again. Now that there's not, like, demon pigeons. And I'm pretty sure the bang of the chariot race is that at the end of the race, Percy and Annabeth win, and Annabeth kisses him on the cheek. So I don't know if that's what that's referring to, but I know that happens, so yeah. And then the final chapter in the book, called chapter 20, is called The Fleece Works Its Magic Too Well, which this chapter, pretty important, pretty significant to the lore of everything. So basically they, like, you know, they return to camp, they have the magic fleece, and they've put it on the tree. The boundary of camp has been healed, like, everything's back to normal. But, you know, the fleece with its, like, healing properties, basically, there's no, like, simple way to say this. Basically, Talia, who, like, is the tree, but she's dead, comes back to life. So, where is she? Talia is now a living, breathing human again. And it's, like, crazy. Okay, hold on, let me do the math. So, Talia's 15 is what I'm getting from this. Like, I don't know how that math, but she is 15. No, this is what it is. Because she should be, wait, hold on. I think this is what it is. I know that she's 15 for sure, but what I'm questioning is, like, earlier, maybe her and Luke were the same age, but then, like, as she was a tree, she aged differently, you know what I'm saying? I don't know. But basically, at this point, she's 15. So, Talia's back. Daughter of Zeus. So, yeah. But I guess, since Sea of Monsters is pretty short, I'm gonna now talk about something I probably should have talked about during the first book, but it's something that's kind of lingering throughout the whole series until it really builds up to the climax in the 5th book, is the Great Prophecy. So this is a prophecy that that for some reason, it's been, like, a while since it was made, but it's, like, for some reason, Annabeth heard it when she was 10. Like, I don't know why they showed it to Annabeth, but it's something that they normally keep pretty secret, and, like, Percy doesn't know what it is. But essentially, it's a prophecy stating that a child of one of the big 3 gods, which is Zeus, Hades, and Poseidon, a child of one of those gods, when they turn 16, will, like the end of the world, and, like, a huge war will come about, and, like, all this crazy stuff. And so, like, Annabeth knows about it, Luke knows about it, Chiron knows about it, and I'm pretty sure that's kind of it. Maybe, like, Mr. D knows about it, and maybe the gods know about it, but none of the other people know about it. Like, Percy definitely doesn't know about it. I think he might just know that something's gonna happen when he turns 16, because that's just what he's always, because at that point, Percy was the only child of the big 3. But now Talia's here, and Percy's 13 and Talia's 15, And so this introduces a whole new thing of like, oh, is this whole debacle gonna come a lot sooner than we thought it was with Percy? Like, could it be within literally the next year? Like, kind of spooky. So yeah, but like none of them really know about it yet, so Percy's not too worried about it. So yeah, that's the Sea of Monsters. And now moving on to the Titan's Curse. I'm really excited to talk about this book. Like, Sea of Monsters, I don't know, it's just not my favorite. So Titan's Curse, honestly, I'd also say is like my second to least favorite, just because, not to spoil it, but like Annabeth isn't in a large section of this book, which is why it's my second to least favorite. But like, it's at like, as a book, is still really good, and you'll see why in a second. But yeah, yeah, I just love it. So we're just gonna go straight in. Chapter 1. Chapter 1 is called My Rescue Operation Goes Very Wrong. So this book, okay, book 2 ends at the end of summer. Like, Percy is about to turn 14, kind of. Unless he already did. I don't know when Camp Half-Blood's summer session ends, if it ends before or after August 18th, but he's like about to turn 14, or is newly 14. This takes place in the winter, so like maybe like a few months later. So it's not like the next summer, it's just a few months later. So yeah. Okay, fan. So it's winter, and basically Percy, Annabeth, and Talia are sent out on a rescue mission. So why the chapter is called My Rescue Mission Goes Wrong. They're sent to this school somewhere in the East Coast. It's probably in New York. Like, I don't know. I'm gonna burp. But they're sent to this school because they have gotten word from someone. I think it's from Grover. They've gotten word from Grover, who has been like at this school, because as a satyr he's like hanging out, tracking down demigods, and he's like, I need your help. And so he's like, I found these 2 demigods who are here, and they need our help to get back to Camp Half-Blood. And so the 2 demigods at this school are Bianca D'Angelo, who, oh my god, where do I even put Bianca? I guess I'll put her up. Well, I don't want to do that, actually. I'll put her here. And then Bianca and her little brother Nico. Which, okay, so I guess I'll just say Nico D'Angelo, as like, you know, Annabeth Chase is my number 2 favorite character. Nico D'Angelo is my favorite character in this entire series. He's one of my favorite fictional characters, like, ever. And so for him to be just like so casually introduced in the 3rd book of the series is like, it's just like, it levels it up so much. It's like it's so good. So they're introduced, and they're siblings, obviously. Bianca's probably like 14 or 13 if I had to guess, and Nico's 10. So yeah, and they're demigods, and they're at the school, and Grover's like, come help me. And so that's kind of what chapter 1 is. I guess at some point in there, there's a school dance, and there's like a really like it's really awkward and cute between Percy and Annabeth. They're like slow dancing. It's really funny, and they're like catching up, because Annabeth lives in San Francisco now, I think. I don't even know, girl. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah. Number 2, chapter 2 is the vice principal gets a missile launcher. Basically, the vice principal of the school that Nico and Bianca are at is a monster, some sort of monster. His name's Dr. Thorn. I don't remember what kind of monster he was, but he's some sort of like scary thing with thorns, I assume. And so they all kind of go outside, and Dr. Thorn chases them, and it's a whole brutal thing. And as this battle happens, Annabeth like literally falls off a cliff. I'm pretty sure she didn't get taken. I'm pretty sure she just fell off a cliff. Either way, Annabeth's gone. But I can't remember if they think she's dead or not. I don't think they think she's dead. I think they're just like, Annabeth is like, someone took Annabeth or something. I don't know. Yeah. And that's kind of that chapter. Then chapter 3 is called Bianca D'Angelo Makes a Choice. So basically, while they're all out, helping. Wait, I'm missing a. I don't want to make another card, so you're just gonna have to bear with me. Okay. I can't think. Bianca. Okay, while they're out there fighting Dr. Thorne, the Hunters of Artemis show up, which is this is the first time the Hunters of Artemis are introduced. It's basically this group of like teen girls and Artemis who like run around, and they're immortal, and they just like fight people, and they're just like archers, and they swear off boys, and they're just like so cool. But Talia hates them for some reason. I don't know why. I think Talia's mad because they like came in and stole her fight. Talia's really like tough and like cool. And so yeah, I don't know if there's another reason she hates them, but she hates them. And so yeah, that's a whole other thing. So Bianca D'Angelo makes a choice is the name of the chapter, because Bianca, who's like 13, has been like for years. Oh, they're orphans, by the way. Nico and Bianca, they're orphans. Bianca's been like taking care of her brother for the past few years, or like quite a few years. And she's just kind of like sick of it, and so she's like, I'm gonna join the Hunters of Artemis. Bye, Nico. And she just like is a Hunter of Artemis now, so that's crazy. Another detail I should add in here is that at some point Percy like finds Annabeth's backpack or something, and she has a brochure in it for the Hunters of Artemis, and he's like freaking out because he thinks she's gonna join, which would not be good for him, because he's like, oh, because like we wouldn't get to like see each other because she'd be a Hunter of Artemis, but also like she would have to swear off boys, and he's like no, but he doesn't really put those pieces together yet, so yeah. But Bianca's the Hunter of Artemis now, and Nico's like, oh, okay. Like he's not like that upset about it, but he's like, oh, like damn, like that sucks. Chapter 4 is called Talia Torches New England, which I'm pretty sure what happens is like they're all like somewhere again in New England. I'm thinking like upstate New York, but I don't know. They're somewhere around there, and they need to get back to Camp Half-Blood, and Apollo shows up. Oh right, because Apollo and Artemis are siblings, so Artemis is like, Apollo, like, come give us a chariot or something. Apollo shows up. Wait, this is kind of crazy. This is Apollo's first appearance in the books, because Apollo isn't that important in this series, or oh my god, lost my page. He's not that important in this series or in Heroes of Olympus or in, you know, Magnus Chase or Kane Chronicles, but the Trials of Apollo is like the most recent series, and he's in that, and he's so funny. So this is like our first taste of Apollo and his hilariousness. So yeah. But basically Talia Torches New England is, I'm pretty sure she's like scared of heights, and so they go on his chariot, and I think she just like makes lightning happen or something because she's a child of Zeus. So like I think something along the lines of that. Chapter 5 is called I Placed an Underwater Phone Call, which I honestly could not have, like, I have no clue what that means. Wait, I literally have no idea what's happening. Wait. Hold on. These chapters are so vague. I placed an wait, should I like read it a little bit? I placed an underwater phone call. I have no clue what that means. But then the chapter 6 is called An Old Dead Friend Comes to Visit, which like I don't know what that means. Like literally what? Okay, I don't know, but there's a prophecy in here, so I'm just gonna read the prophecy. The prophecy for this book. And it's given to Zoe, by the way. Oh wait, you don't know who Zoe is. Zoe's like the lead hunter of the Hunters of Artemis. So yeah, I should have a card for Zoe Nightshade, but I don't. Sorry, Zoe. But this is the prophecy she got. 5 shall go west to the goddess in chains. 1 shall be lost in the land without rain. The bane of Olympus shows the trail. Campers and hunters combined prevail. The Titan's curse must one withstand, and one shall perish by parent's hand. T. And so, the goddess in chains. The way I literally don't know what happens in this book. What the heck? Okay. Wait, this is actually so funny. Okay. So that's like, they got the prophecy. Chapter 9. Okay, yeah. Chapter 7 is called Everyone Hates Me But the Horse, which is like, everyone's mad at Percy for some reason. Everyone's turning against Percy. Basically, Zoe's given this quest, and she chooses like everyone but Percy. And Percy's like, he's like, no. He's like, I need to be on this quest because I need to save Annabeth. And so like everyone's against him, and he's like, oh, this is so unfair. And then chapter 8 is called I Make a Dangerous Promise. I remember this. Wait. He promises, does he promise Athena? He promises someone that he'll do something which leads to him, like, he's like, I gotta go on the quest. I feel like he promises Athena that he'll save Annabeth, but that could be wrong. Should I fact check? I feel like I should. Oh wait, okay, so chapter 8 is he's like leaving immediately because he's like, I got to go on this quest. This is right. Oh. Okay, I figured out what the promise was. The promise wasn't to Athena. Okay. Right before Percy leaves on the quest, Percy promises Nico. Nico is like, I don't know why Nico's up so late, bro. You're like 10, you got a bedtime. But Nico's like, promise to keep my sister safe because Bianca is one of the people that was chosen for the quest. And so Nico was like, promise to keep my sister safe. And Percy was like, yeah, I promise. But I don't want to get into it. Chapter 9 is called I Learn How to Grow Zombies. What? Oh my god, I don't remember this book. What is going on? You shall go west and face the treacherous Lord. What is the general? They're like growing. Wait, guys, I don't know what's going on. Basically, he like meets up with the group, and like they're like, oh, okay, so Percy's here now, and they're just trying to go west to the goddess in chains. I don't know who the goddess in chains is. But yeah. Where is okay. Chapter 10 is called I Break a Few Rocket Ships. Guys, it's like I haven't read this book. What is going on? Basically, okay, from 10, so 10 is called I Break a Few Rocket Ships, 11 is called Grover Gets a Lamborghini, and 12 is called I Go Snowboarding with a Pig. I don't recall anything that happens in those chapters, so therefore it's irrelevant. Basically, they're just like going on the quest, and they're like all kind of bickering. None of them really like each other, except for obviously like Percy and Grover, and like Talia's just kind of fighting with everyone. Wait, hold on, it's coming to me. Talia and Percy don't like each other, if I'm getting this correct. I'm pretty sure that's true. Like, Talia does not like Percy. Yeah. So, yeah. Okay, but then chapter 13 is called We Visit the Junkyard of the Gods, which, hold up. No, it's coming to me, I swear. 175. See, I just gotta see if this is the chapter where it happens or not. Basically, there's this junkyard of the gods. Oh, wait, okay, this is T. Yeah, I'm pretty sure. Okay. We're back. We visited the junkyard of the gods. Basically, it's literally a junkyard where the gods put their stuff, but they're like, if you touch or take any of it, like, you're done. And so they're like, okay, so just like, don't touch anything, guys, or whatever. Eventually, Aphrodite pulls up. Aphrodite, I'm pretty sure she literally pulls up in a car with Ares. Yeah. And so Aphrodite's like, I want to talk to Percy. And Percy's like, okay. And so he gets in the car and he's like, hey, what's up? And she is like, she says something about like, oh, it's so sweet that you're doing all this for Annabeth. And he's like, oh, okay. And he's like, Annabeth's just a friend. And Aphrodite's like, sure, sure. And all this stuff. And she like eventually, I don't remember what the point of her conversation was, but she's like giving him some help in some way. Because she gets entertainment out of the demigods' love life. So she's like, I'm making it like, she's like butting in essentially. So that's really funny. Wait, and there's also this really cute scene of like when he first sees Aphrodite, it like the whole thing of Aphrodite is when you look at her for the first time, it's like something that you love or like someone you love or whatever, and he sees Annabeth. It's so cute. So yeah, chapter 14 is called I Have a Dam Problem. Dam spelled D-A-M because it's the Hoover Dam, which is that's so funny. Okay, in the musical they go to the Hoover Dam in the first, like in the musical, which is based on the first book, because it's just so iconic. The Hoover Dam like scene is genuinely one of the most iconic parts, or like most iconic referred to things in the fandom, because it's this whole joke about the Hoover Dam. It's really stupid, but yeah, they end up at the Hoover Dam. And so basically they're making jokes saying the word damn, but Zoe doesn't get it because she's like 5,000 years old. So that's the whole thing. Then, at the Hoover Dam is where Percy for the first time meets a very important character named... Hello? Rachel Elizabeth Dare. Oh, where do I put her? Up here? That's so far away. I'm sitting like this. Okay. Rachel Elizabeth Dare, really important. Basically, he runs into her at the Hoover Dam, and he's like fighting something. So he has like his sword out, which from the mist, mortal people wouldn't be able to see his sword. They would just see something like else, and they would just like explain it away. But he like runs into this girl and he's like, oh, I'm sorry. And she's like, why are you carrying a sword? And he's like, what? Because like a mortal person shouldn't be able to see it. And so basically it's this whole thing of like Percy's just met this mortal girl who can see through the mist, and it's like really weird. And she's like, my name's Rachel Elizabeth Dare. And it's like the whole reason, a thing about Percy Jackson characters is Rick never gives them middle names, but her name's Rachel Elizabeth Dare because it's R-E-D for red because her hair is red. So that's really interesting. But like she kind of helps him like a little bit, like she like covers for him. Like I'm pretty sure she literally just like blocks him when the monsters come by and they don't see him or something. And then she's like gone. We never see her for the rest of the book, but she comes back in later books. So just a little brief intro to Rachel Elizabeth Dare, an iconic character. So yeah. Chapter 15 is called I Wrestle Santa's Evil Twin. Like, literally could not tell you what that means. Chapter 16 is called We Meet the Dragon of Eternal Bad Breath. This is, like, part of the quest is they have to go through this, like, forest or something where there is a dragon who's, like, protecting it, and they have to get through the dragon to go there. And if I'm not mistaken, I'm pretty sure something about the dragon, or I'm getting like apple, was there an apple or something? I think something there related to a quest that Luke went on that was like his kind of last straw. Like Luke at some point before Percy met him was put on this quest to do something for his dad where he got an apple, and that's where he has like a scar straight down his eye, and that's where he got that scar. And it was supposed to be like the prophecy, like quests and stuff is supposed to be like the biggest thing of a demigod's life, but he came back and he felt so like empty after it, and it was part of the reason why he became all evil and against the gods. And so I think there's some connection to that there, but I'm not quite sure. So yeah, chapter 17 is called I Put on a Few Million Extra Pounds. Okay, so we're gonna backtrack a little bit. Throughout this entire book, Percy has been having like dreams or visions kind of every once in a while of Artemis. Okay, Artemis and Annabeth are both missing. That's why the hunters are on the quest, and that's why Percy's on the quest. And so basically he has visions of those two. They are, if you know the myth of Atlas, he's the one who's like holding up the earth. And that's his like eternal punishment, to be holding up the earth the whole time. And if he lets it fall, like the earth will like implode. So Percy's having visions where basically Atlas is like not there, and Artemis and Annabeth are like off and on carrying the literal weight of the world. If you're looking for a really great Percy Jackson song that's not in the musical, it was like a cut song. There's a song Rob Rokiki wrote for the musical but didn't make it in. It's called Take the Weight. And there's so many references in that song to literally this moment of Annabeth literally carrying the weight of the world. But it also has some really great analysis of her character and like how she, you know, feels like she has to be the best at everything, all that stuff. So yeah, basically in chapter 17, I put on a few million extra pounds, they all arrive at the place where Annabeth and Artemis are being kept, and they are like fighting. They're fighting. No, I know it. I feel like it starts. Is it Atlas? I don't think they're fighting Atlas. Hold on. It's Zoe's dad. 262. I know it's Zoe's dad. But is her dad Atlas? I don't think it is. What's his name? No, it's coming. I got it. Titan? Well, this is the Titan. But what's his name? Is it Atlas? Okay, I think it is Atlas. So Atlas is the Titan. You know, the book's called The Titan's Curse, and so that's like what it is. I guess his curse is like, you know, he having to carry the weight of the world. And so basically Annabeth and Artemis are literally carrying the weight of the world. And Percy, so basically they show up and they're fighting him, and at some point Percy is carrying the weight of the world, and I remember that. And Percy literally carried it for like a few seconds, but Annabeth was carrying it for like hours. So it really just put on into perspective how strong Annabeth is. Love her. 18 is called A Friend Says Goodbye, which is such a crazy title for this chapter because basically Zoe Nightshade, who's the daughter of Atlas, I think, dies. She dies. She's killed. And it's a really beautiful, it's a really beautiful death scene. Not everyone gets a beautiful death scene like that. Like Bianca D'Angelo. Did I say that Bianca D'Angelo died? I don't think I did. Oh my god, I'm so embarrassed. I literally didn't talk about that. It's like the biggest part of the book. Oh my god, backtrack. Okay, before they go to the Hoover Dam, Bianca D'Angelo is killed. She's killed. Because, okay, the whole junkyard thing of, like, you can't take anything from the junkyard, she took one of the little, like, action figures from the junkyard to give to Nico. And so she ends up dying. I can't believe I forgot to say that. That's so annoying. But yeah, and like the whole thing at the beginning of Percy promising to keep Bianca safe. Now she's dead. That's important. Remember that for later. So chapter 18, A Friend Says Goodbye, Zoe Nightshade dies, which like completes the prophecy, because it was like, and the last line was like, someone will die by a parent's hand or something, and so Atlas kills his daughter Zoe. Chapter 19 is called The Gods Vote How to Kill Us, which the gods and demigods are always like a little bit of feuding, but not like feuding for real. It's more like parent-kid sort of feuding. And so they all go to Olympus, I believe. And they're kind of just like lined up there. Oh, and Annabeth knows that Luke is alive. No, it's coming. I think they thought what did I just say? They think they killed Luke at the end of the last book, but no, Annabeth like now knows that he's alive for some reason. I don't know. Sorry. Yeah. And so they were like in Olympus just because they had gone through like such a crazy thing. And so eventually Artemis gets up to speak, and she's like, I want to invite someone to be my like another hunter or something, to kind of replace Zoe Nightshade, who has died. And she asks Annabeth, who, like, you know, she had a pamphlet for the hunters in her bag. She seemed interested. Like, a life of immortality, just with a bunch of girls fighting. Sounds like it would be up Annabeth's alley, kind of. And so Percy the whole time is standing there like, oh my god, no. Like, Annabeth, please say no, please say no. Or, like, Artemis is, like, going on and on about, like, I feel like I need someone new. And so Percy's like, please don't choose Annabeth. Please don't choose Annabeth. And then Artemis was like, Annabeth. And he was like, no. And then he looked over at Annabeth and he's like, Annabeth, please, no. And she was like, what? And then Annabeth eventually ends up declining because she's like, I got a lot more to live for. And she didn't want to be immortal. And then eventually Talia Grace, who's like days away from turning 16, is like, I'll take Zoe Nightshade's spot, which is kind of like a little full circle thing, because Talia, her whole thing is that she hates the hunters, but now she's like come around and she's gonna join them after seeing how brave and cool they are. And so Talia joins the hunters, and I think there's literally a scene where she talks to Percy, and she's like, well, sorry, I guess the prophecy's back on you, because like when you're a hunter, you're immortal, so she's gonna stay like not 16 forever, and so the prophecy won't come true about her. So now the great prophecy's back on Percy's shoulders. So perfect. And then chapter 20 is called I Get a New Enemy for Christmas, and this is truly, for me, where the series becomes like so good. Like, in this chapter is where it really picks up, and it's because it's all about Nico D'Angelo. Basically, they all go back to camp, and Percy has to break the news to Nico that Bianca has died, that she's dead and gone. His like literal Nico, his parents are dead, he has no friends, he's like so isolated, and he's at this like new camp and he doesn't know anyone there. They all just left him to go on a quest, and his sister's dead now, so he has like literally no one. And so Percy's like, I'm sorry, like Bianca passed away. And Nico's like, he gets like very upset, and he's like, literally the one thing I asked you to do was to keep my sister safe. And Percy's like, yeah, I know. And Nico essentially like has this huge like breakdown, and he ends up, because they know that Nico's a demigod, but they don't know who his parent is. No one's claimed him. And so he ends up getting like so upset that he uses powers that he doesn't know he has, and he like summons an army of skeletons. And Percy's like, and then Nico disappears. So Percy's like, we have a child of Hades on our hands. We have a child of Hades on our hands. So Nico's a child of Hades. Like, how much cooler could you get? So that's what I Get a New Enemy for Christmas means. Yeah, that's the Titan's Curse. I literally don't remember half of that book. That's crazy. So yeah. So the next two books I'm really excited for, because for me, like, these are where the series goes from like really good to like literally the best ever. So the Battle of the Labyrinth, I don't know if I like Battle of the Labyrinth or Last Olympian more. I really go back and forth. Like, for a while this was my absolute favorite, but the Last Olympian is just so good. Like, I don't know. So yeah, this is the Battle of the Labyrinth, and we're just gonna get straight into it. Chapter 1 is called I Battle the Cheerleading Squad. So basically this takes place, so Titan's Curse was in the winter, right? And then this is the next summer. So this is like the summer after Sea of Monsters, right? I think. Is that even true? I don't even know what's happening. Hold on, let me read it back. Basically, he's going into high school, which honestly doesn't add up. Wait, yes it does. Does it? Hold on, because the Sea of Monsters is like, he's 7th grade. Okay, yeah. So Titan's Curse takes place during 8th grade. Hold on. It's coming. Wait, but why is he there? Okay, whatever. This takes place during 8th grade. He's going to his freshman year orientation in this book. I don't know why that's happening at the beginning of summer, but I don't know. But it's fine. He's at his freshman year orientation, sure, in June, sure. And so he goes to his school. Also, I should mention throughout this whole thing, oh, by the way, oh my god, Percy's stepdad from the first book, Gabe, by the end of the first book, it's presumed that Sally literally killed him. It's like very glossed over, but I think the fandom as a collective has decided that she killed him. Because it does make sense in canon, so like it's fine. But throughout this, I don't know when he popped up, but Sally has a new boyfriend, and his name is Paul Blofus. And I don't know if at this point they're married, but like he's basically Percy's stepdad at this point. And like Paul is really sweet, and it's really cute to see like Sally be treated the way she deserves. So yeah, but basically Paul Blofus is the principal of this high school that Percy's about to go to. So that's kind of like a weird, not weird, but like there's a dynamic there. And so he shows up at his orientation, and he sees no other than Rachel Elizabeth there at his high school. Isn't that crazy? So yeah, Rachel Elizabeth there is there. And basically, so Rachel can like see through the mist, but she's mortal, and so it's like a weird thing. And of course Percy gets attacked, like, because of course he does. He gets attacked by, not Andromeda, what am I saying? Empousi? That's how I've always said it, but I don't think that's right. It's like Empousi, but they're like disguised as cheerleaders. So he just gets attacked at his orientation. But there's this whole thing where him and Annabeth were planning to see each other like later that day. And like Sally was making fun of Percy for it because she was like, "Are you ready for your date?" And he's like, "It's not a date, Mom." And it's like the whole thing, but it was like for sure a date. Like they were one-on-one hanging out in New York City, like hello. So like Annabeth is like, so like he gets out of the school, he's just been attacked, the school's like on fire, I'm pretty sure. And Annabeth is there waiting for him, and she's like, "Oh my god, what happened?" And Percy's there, and Rachel's with him. And Rachel, like, writes her phone number on Percy's arm and is like, "If you ever need help again, come call me." And Annabeth is like, she's like, "Who's that? Who's that?" Because Annabeth's obviously, like, no one will admit it, but Annabeth's in love with Percy. And so she's like, "Who's that girl that just wrote her number on your arm when we were about to go on a date? What's that about?" And so it's just like, so then, like, Annabeth is, like, mad at Percy, but it's, like, really funny. So, yeah. Then they go to camp, eventually. They get to camp somehow. I don't know if they take the Grey Sisters taxi cab or however they get to camp. But no, chapter number 2 is called The Underworld Sends Me a Prank Call. This, I believe what this is referring to, is Percy has a vision of Nico D'Angelo, who they have not seen since the end of, like, since when Percy revealed that Bianca died. He's been gone. They're like, where is he gone? Like, and they told Chiron that, like, he's a kid of Hades, and it's, like, a big deal, and they're like, "We need to find this kid," but they don't know where he is. And so Percy has, like, a dream where he sees Nico, and he sees Nico trying to summon the dead to talk to Bianca, which is, like, so sad. But he's legit using, like, McDonald's fries to summon the dead, which is really funny and has been used in, like, numerous fan arts. Like, there's so much fan art of Nico with the fries at, like, a graveyard. It's, like, peak emo, whatever, like, yeah. And so that's what happens there. So they're all kind of like, okay, so Nico's kind of gone off the rails. And I love him for that. By the way, Nico's my favorite character in the whole series, and you might not get it because of the PJO series, but when I do my video on the Heroes of Olympus series, you'll get it. Like, he flourishes in that series. But yeah. Chapter 3 is called We Play Tag with Scorpions, which, wait, hold on. I'm backtracking. Chapter 2, the prank call from the dead might not be the Nico McDonald's thing. it might be Bianca talking to him and being like, you need to find Nico or something like that. Like something involving Nico and Bianca is in his dream. Whatever. Chapter 3 is called We Play Tag with Scorpions. Basically, I don't know if it's Capture the Flag. It's some sort of game that's happening where they get in pairs. And so Percy and Annabeth are put together in a pair. And they have to like find something. I guess it's tag. I don't know. But they go off into the place in the woods, which is called Zeus's Fist, because it's this big, huge boulder, which looks like a fist. And so they just call it Zeus's Fist. And I think it's Capture the Flag. So Percy and Annabeth are like going in because they're like, oh, we see the flag. And so they go in and they essentially fall into a pit. And they're like, oh my God, where are we? And on the wall, Annabeth sees the delta symbol. Like, you know, like the alphabet in Greek, like delta. And so Annabeth like sees it and is like, oh my God, but Percy has no idea what she like means. Like he doesn't know what that symbol is. It looks like a triangle. And so she's like, oh my God, I think I know where we are. And he's like, what? And she's like, we need to get out of here like right now. And he's like, oh my God. And so they eventually like climb out. They're in there for like 5 minutes maybe. And so they go back to like where everyone else is, and everyone else is like, oh my God, where were you? And they're like, what? And they're like, you've been gone for like hours, or like I think it was like 2 hours maybe, or like 1 hour. I don't know how long it was. It wasn't like incredibly long, but they were gone for like 5 minutes, but everyone was like, you've been gone for an hour. And they were like, no, we just like fell into this hole. And Annabeth just says to Chiron, like, Chiron, I think we found it. And by the way, everyone thinks, oh my God, it's so funny. So for everyone else, they were gone for like an hour, but they're like, what? No. And so everyone thinks that Percy and Annabeth were like going to like make out in the woods or something. Like, it's like the whole like they're crazy, bro. But clearly Annabeth and Chiron know something. And also Clarice is also involved. Where is she? Clarice is also involved, and also Clarice and Annabeth are like weirdly like friendly with each other in this book, and Percy's like, what's going on there? I don't know how far ahead I'm getting. No, I think we're fine. So basically Annabeth, they all kind of sit down, and Chiron, Annabeth, and Clarice are like, so we think we need to go into the labyrinth. And that's basically what they fell into, was the literal labyrinth. And so, like, Chiron and Annabeth have been obviously talking about this for a while, but they think it involves, the quest. What am I talking about? They think it involves Luke. And so they're like, we might need to go into the labyrinth. Because that would explain how, like, Luke got into Poison Talia's tree. It would explain, like, how Luke knows what's going on. If he has, like, an entrance from the labyrinth into camp through Zeus's Fist, like, it would all make sense. So, yeah. So they're like, we need to figure out how to take control of the labyrinth. And so I don't think they get the prophecy yet. I'm really curious to see when they get the prophecy. But I'll talk about it. Oh my God, wait, I'm just skimming this book and it's so cute. There's also a dude named Quintus, which I don't remember if he's important. You shall go west and face the dread Lord. Wait, why am I like, I'm like stupid? Where is the prophecy? Hold on, I'm just gonna keep talking while I'm pacing this way. So basically, that all happens. And then the next chapter, chapter 4, is called Annabeth Breaks the Rules, which is kind of just referring to Annabeth. There's a rule at camp where demigods of different, like, parents aren't allowed to sit at each other's tables during lunch or, like, during meals and all this stuff. And so, basically, oh, okay, here we go. Basically, Annabeth sat at Percy's table, and it was, like, all the drama. Everyone was like, oh my God, Annabeth's sitting with Percy. Like, oh my God. The whole camp, like, ships them. It's so funny. So, yeah. Then, that's basically what happens. And they're just kind of, like, talking about it. Like, talking about the, you know, the whatever. Let me just confirm. Okay, actually, I'm lying. Okay, something else that happens in chapter 4, Annabeth Breaks the Rules, is she gets the prophecy. Because basically, this is important because Annabeth, obviously, like, all she's ever wanted was a quest. That's all she's ever wanted, because she just wants to prove herself. So Annabeth finally is given a quest in this book. Like, the whole thing is hers. It's not Percy's quest, it's Annabeth's quest. And so this is the prophecy that she gets. So it's told through her words rather than just like being read. What I just showed you doesn't make any sense, but this is the prophecy. But she's like hesitant in saying it. So it goes, "You shall delve in the darkness of the endless maze," which is obviously the labyrinth. And then it says, "The dead, the traitor, and the lost one raise," which is like, okay, what's that mean? and then it says, "You shall rise or fall by the ghost king's hand," which I know who the ghost king is, but you don't know who the ghost king is yet, but yeah. And then it says, "The child of Athena's final stand." It's like, oh. It's like, oh, that's a little suspicious. Is she gonna die? Maybe. And then Chiron's like, okay, are there more lines? It sounds incomplete. And Annabeth's like, oh, I don't know. And then she says something about destroy with a hero's final breath. And so she's clearly like keeping the line of the prophecy to herself and not sharing it. Because like Annabeth is not the one to forget a prophecy. Like, come on now. And she's just, so we're just like, okay, weird. Oh my god. There's a quote right below her talking about the prophecy, and it just says, "She smiled for the first time in days, and that made it all worthwhile." See, this book is like peak Percy and Annabeth, like falling in love. It's crazy. So yeah, that's what happens in chapter 4. Like, she gets the quest, it's all about Annabeth, and she's like keeping a bit of a secret. Chapter 5 is called Nico Buys Happy Meals for the Dead, which I already explained that whole thing. So I think that whole thing happens here, not in chapter 2. So yeah, he just has a vision about Nico. Chapter 6 is called We Meet the God with Two Faces, which is, this is them going into the labyrinth for the first time. Excuse me. So they're in the labyrinth and they meet the God with two faces, which I literally think is named Janice. Like, what was Janice? There's someone named Janice in the labyrinth. And basically, they have to do, like, trivia or something. And Annabeth is like, oh, step aside, let me do this. So, yeah. It's just, like, a bunch of trials in the labyrinth. Chapter 7. Oh, wait, okay, I forgot to mention. During the quest, Annabeth, you know how it's, like, 3 people go on a quest. It's a whole thing. But Annabeth chose obviously herself, and Tyson, Grover, and Percy. So she's taking 4 people into the labyrinth, which everyone's like, oh, that's like not a good, you're like making, it's like, how do I explain it? Like, you're making yourself more of a target in a way. Like, it's more likely things will go wrong if there's 4 people rather than 3. So they're just like, you're just making it harder for yourself. But it shows her character development from hating Tyson's guts because he was a Cyclops to her being like, okay, like, he needs to come on this quest with me. So yeah. So chapter 7 is called Tyson Leads a Jailbreak, which they literally go to Alcatraz, I think. Is it Alcatraz? They go to some jail. And there's a dude with a bunch of eyes that's like a monster. And they free him. I don't remember his name. But that's what the jailbreak is. So it's like all this stuff, it's like them going through these different trials in the labyrinth to they're trying to find Daedalus's workshop, because in the workshop it's like this string, I forget what they call it, it's like this golden string, maybe, I don't know, Daedalus's string, maybe, which will basically allow them to navigate the labyrinth, like, completely 100% for sure. Because right now they're kind of just guessing, and like the labyrinth can go like literally anywhere. It's not certain at all. Like, you literally have no clue where you're going, but the string lets you navigate it properly. So they're trying to do that so that they can help take down Luke. That's the whole goal. And then chapter 8 is called I Visit the Demon Dude Ranch, which this is where they meet up with Nico D'Angelo. Nico has been like living at this ranch, ? I guess. And so they find him there. Basically, I don't remember what happens, but they're like at this ranch, Nico's there. Nico is like, I don't want to talk to you, I hate you guys. Yeah. Chapter 9 is called I Scoop Poop, which is really interesting. Basically, he has to, like, scoop poop to get out of the ranch. But since he's the son of Poseidon, he literally just, like, blasts poop out. So, that's fun. Chapter 10 is called We Play the Game Show of Death, which is, again, just one of the Trials of the Labyrinth. Maybe that's the trivia one. I honestly don't remember. But it's all... Okay, here we go. But yeah, so they're there. Whatever. Yeah. Chapter 11 is where it gets good. Chapter 11 is called I Set Myself on Fire. Basically, they go to Mount St. Helens. You know what I'm talking about? Mount St. Helens. The volcano. And they're doing something where there's okay, it's coming back to me. Typhoon or Typhon, I don't know, it's this dude. This dude is in Mount St. Helens. And they're like, we need to kill him. I think we need to kill him. And so they're like, we need to make this volcano erupt. That's literally, they're like, we need to make this volcano erupt. And so basically Annabeth and Percy are sitting behind this rock, and they're like, oh my god, like, Annabeth is like, Percy, you can't do this. And Percy's like, no, I promise I'll be okay. Should I read it? I should read the quote, shouldn't I? Hold on, it's coming. Oh wait, I remember, okay, I literally, like, can you see the line down the middle of my book? It leads to this page. That's how much I read this page. So, like, this is how iconic this moment is about to be. So they're like, okay. Where should I start? Okay, so Percy's like, put your cap back on, get out. Because he knows this is about to blow. And he's like, Annabeth, you can't be there. And so Annabeth says, what? No, I'm not leaving you. And he says, I've got a plan. I'll distract them. You can use the metal spider, which is something that Hephaestus gave them. And he said, maybe it'll lead you back to Hephaestus. You have to tell me what's going on. No, you have to tell him what's going on. And it's basically, they've, like, heard this whole conversation that's, like, really bad. And it's stuff about Kronos or whatever. And so he's like, you have to tell him what's going on. And she's like, but you're gonna be killed. And he says, I'll be fine. Besides, we've got no choice. And then, this isn't a quote. This is just, like, something that's written. It says, Annabeth glared at me like she was gonna punch me. And then she did something that surprised me even more. She kissed me. And then she says, be careful, seaweed brain. And then it says, she put her hat on and vanished. And then it says, I probably would have sat there for the rest of the day, staring at the lava, trying to remember what my name was, but the sea demons jarred me back to reality. And so Annabeth gives him a kiss for the first time. It's so cute. So yeah, he basically gets blasted out in the volcano. And so he kind of dies in a way, but he doesn't. He ends up at, I don't remember what it's called, the place that she lives at. It's like Acacia or something. That's the name of what? Ogygia? It's whatever. It's the name of this island that Calypso lives on. And basically it's like dudes die and then show up there, and then once Calypso falls in love with them, a boat shows up and they're able to go back to their, like, lives. So it's really sad for Calypso. Calypso falls in love with all these men and then they just disappear. Really fun. So yeah. So he meets Calypso, and this chapter is called I Take a Permanent Vacation, if I didn't say that already. That's chapter 12. And so the permanent vacation is him, like, at this island, thinking he's dead, but he's, like, with Calypso, and it's this whole thing. She falls in love with him. But then he eventually, so she falls in love with him, and he is able to go back and back to his life. And he sails away, and he arrives back up at Long Island. And so chapter 13, called We Hired a New Guide, is, again, one of the most iconic scenes in the whole series. And I love it so much, and I can basically quote it from my mind, I'm pretty sure, so I'm just gonna go for it. So at the beginning of chapter 13, he rolls up at Camp Half-Blood from it's been like 2 weeks since Mount St. Helens has exploded. Everyone thinks he's dead. He literally rolls up on his own funeral. And so they're like burning his shroud. Everyone's sad, everyone's crying, and it's not a stage, but they're like at the amphitheater, and Annabeth is like standing in front of everyone, and she's literally about to speak at his funeral because she thinks that he has died. And he shows up, and she says, Percy is one of the like greatest friends I've ever had. He's so brave, he's so whatever, and he's right there. And he's like, hi, and she's like, oh my god, he's right there. And everyone turns around, they're like, what? And everyone's like, Percy, my man. And so like people are like crowding around him, and they're like embracing him and all this stuff. And then from the crowd splits, and Annabeth comes like running towards him, and is like, she's yelling at him. She's like, seaweed brain, if you ever leave me again, I swear, like, I will kill you. And she gives him like the biggest hug ever. It's so cute. And so she's like literally like so distressed, but now he's back, and so it's like a whole thing. And basically, so like Percy, Annabeth, and Chiron meet because they're like, okay, quest is back on. And Annabeth's like, where have you been? And he's like, and Annabeth kind of, no. Okay. She's like, where have you been? And he doesn't really want to tell her because the whole Calypso thing of like her falling in love with him feels a little awkward between Percy and Annabeth. And so basically throughout the whole labyrinth thing, they've figured out a way to navigate it is to have a mortal person who can see through the mist, because like even the demigods get tricked by the mist quite often. And so Percy suggests getting Rachel Elizabeth there to help them go through the labyrinth, and Annabeth is not happy about that because, you know, she's the one that Annabeth rolled up on Rachel writing her phone number on Percy's hand and all this stuff. And so Annabeth is like, she's mad. So she storms off, and Percy's like, Percy's talking to Chiron, and he's like, bro, I don't know what to do with Annabeth. And Chiron's just like, give her some time. She literally just thought you were dead, and she suspects where you were, aka like Annabeth kind of put the pieces together that he was at Calypso's island, and she's just jealous. And Percy's like, jealous? Why would she be jealous? Because he's so stupid. So anyway, so chapter 13 is like, we hire a new guide. So they've hired Rachel to guide them in the labyrinth. Chapter 14 is called My Brother Duels Me to the Death. That's a really interesting chapter title because I have no clue what that means. I think there's some there's some in the labyrinth, there's like a battle arena. This is what I'm remembering from reading the book. It's like there's like a fight between like some of Kronos' army and Percy's army. So yeah, that's all I remember. But like I know Ethan Nakamura is there, who was one of the demigods on Luke's side, who's a child of either Nemesis or Nike. I think it's Nike. No, but because Nemesis is like balance, but Nike's like winning. So I don't remember. Chapter 15 is called We Steal Some Slightly Used Wings. I remember this. They show up at Daedalus's workshop. They're still fighting, and Nico's with them again, I'm pretty sure. Because Nico, that's when, hold on. I'm pretty sure that's when Nico is claimed as the Ghost King, which is part of the prophecy, which is why I got so excited about that the prophecy. So Nico's declared the Ghost King. He like summons the dead to defeat Kronos' army. And they use these wings to escape Daedalus's workshop because they get the string, I'm pretty sure. Unless Luke might have gotten it first. But basically in the myth of, well, it's like not the myth of the labyrinth, but it's related to the labyrinth. Like the myth of Icarus is kind of brought into this. Because I guess, did Daedalus design Icarus's wings or something? I don't know, but Icarus was in the labyrinth at some point, and then he came up and he had the wax wings, and then he flew towards the sun and then died. That's like the whole thing. So it's connected to the labyrinth in some way, but basically in Daedalus's workshop, the wax wings from the myth of Icarus were there. So they used the wax wings to escape. So yeah, that's what this We Steal Some Slightly Used Wings comes from. Chapter 16 is called I Open a Coffin, which I don't remember how he gets there, but Cronus is in a coffin and he opens the coffin. And this is this when? I don't know. At some point, Cronus literally overtakes, Luke, it's coming to me, I swear. Luke and Cronus, like, combine forms. Luke takes over Cronus's body, I guess, but, like, Cronus is in control, but he has, like, Luke's power, I guess. I'm not quite sure, but they combine into, like, one being. So that's the whole coffin thing. Chapter 17 is called The Lost God Speaks. This is kind of irrelevant, but, like, kind of relevant. I don't know. Grover. Oh my god, low power mode. Shut up. Grover, who has been here the whole time, but is just kind of hanging along. His goal for, like, the whole series has been to find Pan, who's, like, kind of his dad, but, like, Pan is, like, the father of, like, all satyrs, because it's just, like, nature. Like, Pan's the god of wild. So, like, you know, Grover just loves Pan, but Pan's missing. But basically, 17, The Lost God Speaks. Basically, Pan, like, dies. Yeah. Chapter 18 is called Grover Causes a Stampede. There's the war, like, Cronus' army comes to Camp Half-Blood and they fight a bit, and Grover is, like, the MVP of it, basically. He uses his, like, not god powers. He uses his nature powers, and, you know, just having seen Pan and watching Pan die, he's, like, reinvigorated with some strength, and he causes a thing called a panic, because, like, Pan, but it's a panic, and it's, like, I don't know, it's some, like, OP sort of move. Yeah. Chapter 19 is called The Council Gets Cloven. Is this... I think this is when... Does Grover become part of the Cloven Council? I don't know if that happens here. I don't know what that means, really. But the Cloven Council is basically, like, a council of satyrs who kind of are, like, the leaders of all the satyrs who are, like, going out to save different demigods and all that stuff. They're kind of like the Supreme Court of satyrs. I don't know. So, yeah. At some point, Grover becomes a part of the council. So, I don't know if that's there. It very well might be. But then the last chapter is chapter 20, which is called My Birthday Party Takes a Dark Turn. And so, basically, okay, by this point of the book, Nico is kind of coming around to everyone. He's still got this very, like, it's so hard to explain without having, like, if you haven't read the book. But Nico, in the beginning of the Titan's Curse, when we first meet him, he's just this, like, 10-year-old kid, and he's so full of life, and he's so, like, despite his parents being dead, everything he's been through. Wait. Hold on. Okay, I forgot to mention a pretty big part of it. Basically, I'm pretty sure this is revealed through Bianca. I don't know when Nico finds out. But hold on, it's coming. When they're on the quest with Bianca, before Bianca dies, Bianca reveals that her and Nico stayed at the Lotus Casino, which is from the first book. And it's the hotel that Percy, Annabeth, and Grover stayed at, where they were there for, like, a day, but in the real world, it was, like, a week. And so, like, time moves differently in the Lotus Casino. But Bianca and Nico were there for, like, a month. And so, like, in reality, they had been there in the casino for, like, 70 years. So Nico and Bianca are from, like the 40s, I'm gonna guess, like the 1940s, from Italy also. And then they, like, escaped the casino because Hades got them out, I'm pretty sure. And so, like, they didn't know. Like, Nico's 10 years old, but he's, like, from the 40s, but he's, like, in the 2000s. Like, it's really weird. So that's a whole other thing that I forgot to mention about that. But Nico's, like, so he's been through a lot, right? He's been through, like, time travel. His sister died. All this stuff. His mom died. And so even through all of that, when he was 10 and introduced, he was still, like, this happy kid. he used like playing cards. He was like into like Greek mythology, and he was like so interested in all of it. He was like, oh, it's so cool. His hero was Percy, until Percy broke the news to him that Bianca died and all this stuff. And then like immediately when he found out Bianca died, he like completely shut down, and it was like really dark. And so like at this point he's still in quite a dark space, and I'd say Nico's still in quite a dark space until like literally like until the he still kind of is like The Sun and the Star, which is a book about Nico and another character, Will, is the most recent book that has been released in the PJO universe sort of whole thing. And Nico in that was still like a big part of that book was him like fighting his demons with his mom Bianca and stuff. So like it really, really affected him. So basically Nico's like traumatized. But he is like slightly coming around to the whole gang, but he's still very like cold to them, rightfully so. So basically Percy has a birthday party and Nico shows up, and they were essentially just trying to figure out ways to defeat Kronos, because Percy at this point knows something's happening when he turns 16, and so this is his 15th birthday. And so he's like, something's gonna happen next year, we need to like figure something out. And Nico, being the child of Hades, rolls up and he's like, I have an idea. And that's what like my birthday party takes a dark turn. The dark turn is Nico kind of explaining to him his idea of how he can defeat Kronos, which I don't think it's actually explained in this book, because it's revealed in the last book what the plan is, but it's revealed at his birthday party. And it's so sad because Nico's like, or I don't know, I don't think Nico says it, but I think Percy internally realizes that like Nico's never been to a birthday party before. So yeah. That's the Battle of the Labyrinth. I hope you know that it's 11:30 at night and I'm sitting here talking about Percy Jackson. So yeah. On to The Last Olympian. This book I know like the back of my hand, and let me tell you why. There is this, oh my god, it's so good. There is this like playlist on YouTube of this person named Hayden. I don't remember what their like account name is, but their name's Hayden. And she recorded, I don't know if it was a fan fiction originally or like whatever, but she recorded, it's this series called The Last Olympian from Annabeth's POV. And it's literally the best thing I've ever heard. And when I was in like 7th grade, I used to listen to it every night and fall asleep to it. And honestly, sometimes I still do, because it's so good. And Annabeth, it's so interesting because Annabeth is so much more aware of like literally everything than Percy is. So like Percy, reading it from Percy's POV is like so funny and fun. But reading it from Annabeth's POV is so interesting because she's so much more aware of like what the prophecy is originally. Like Percy doesn't even find out until like a third of the way into this book. She's aware of like all the people at camp and like stuff that like when Percy's elsewhere, Annabeth is at camp and seeing how the camp reacts to stuff. And like she's so much more aware of like her and Percy's interactions, whereas Percy just like sees, he's like in love with her, but he like is like, oh, my best friend Annabeth. But she's like so aware. I don't know, it's so interesting. So if you're looking for a good listen to that. So yeah, this is The Last Olympian. So chapter 1 is called I Go Cruising with Explosives. So okay, this book really starts out crazy. So it starts out with Percy and Rachel hanging out on the beach. Okay, Percy. Basically, they're hanging out on the beach and Rachel kisses him. And he's like, okay. He does like Rachel. He does. But yeah. So basically he kisses Rachel on the beach. Basically, and it's this whole thing of like, he knows when he turns 16 something really big's gonna happen and it's gonna be really dangerous and he might die. And so hanging out with Annabeth and like camp related things makes him think about that and think about the stress. And although that's like his home and like his safe space, literally, it's like he explains this a lot in the book of like, sometimes, like, hanging out with Rachel just kind of, like, makes him forget about that whole side of things. It makes him feel normal. And so it's like, I don't think Percy and Annabeth, I mean, oh my god, I don't think Percy and Rachel belong together, but, like, I understand where he's coming from. So basically, Charles Beckendorf, I mean, Charlie, his name's Charles, whatever, Charlie Beckendorf shows up at the beach and is like, oh, hey, Percy, we're ready to go on our quest. Because him and Percy, I don't know, they, like, planned a quest or something. So they're going to do something. And Charlie's like, you don't want me to tell Annabeth about that, do you? And because he saw them kiss. And Percy's like, don't you dare. And so basically, they go on this ship. There's so many ships in this series I haven't realized until right now. They go onto this boat with part of Cronus's armies on it. And they're trying to get something. Like, I don't know what the point was. Maybe it's just to, like, kill some of his army, I don't know. And essentially, Charlie dies, which is devastating to the camp. But I don't know when. Okay, I'm pretty sure it's still in this chapter. So Charles dies, which is, like, brutal, because I haven't really talked about him at all, but basically Charlie Beckendorf, he's the head counselor of the Hephaestus cabin, which is, like, the welding forgery, like, building cabin. And he's the head counselor. He's, like, one of the oldest demigods at camp, and it's this whole thing of, like, at camp there's not a lot of older people because typically demigods die by the time they're, like, at least 20. And so, like, there's not a long life expectancy. And so I think Charlie was, like, 19 or something. And so he, like, was one of the oldest people there. And so, like, the entire camp looked up to him, including Percy. And just, like, see someone that, like, a camper that old and, like, still, like, being alive, like, people loved him. And he was just a really great leader. And so, like, his death really, like, affected Percy a lot. And, like, affected Percy in a way of, like, oh, he died and I didn't, like, survivor's guilt, basically. And also, Charlie and Selena were dating and had been dating since the first book. And so, like, it's really brutal for Selena, who is the head counselor of the Aphrodite cabin, if I didn't explain that. Because Selena's pretty important in this book, so, yeah. She's the head counselor of the Aphrodite cabin, but she is just, like, absolutely devastated by this news. So, yeah. Chapter 2 is called I Meet Some Fishy Relatives. I have literally no clue what that means. But basically, wait, hold on. I need to, like, at some point, no, I don't think it's yet. Okay. I don't know what happens in that chapter, honestly. But there's basically, he's at camp now, because he has to come back and break the news to everyone that Charles is dead. But him and Annabeth are just having a lot of moments. Like, he shows up. The first time he sees Annabeth when he gets back to camp is really cute, because he's like, oh, she's, like, taller. He's like, she's taller, her hair's curly. He's like, she looks beautiful, stuff like that. Chapter 3 is called, I guess, Sneak Peek at My Death, which that is when he finally finds out the great prophecy. That, again, Annabeth, it's, like, such an interesting dynamic scenario sort of thing. About things are moving. Oh my god. Okay. Because Annabeth has known about this prophecy since she was 10. And so, like, when she found out Percy was the one that the prophecy is about, it was kind of like a ticking time bomb in a way. Like, she, like, loves Percy so much, but she knows that he's, like, destined to kind of die when he turns 16. So it's like, what? And so he is told the prophecy. I should really get the prophecy. Let me see if I can find it in here. It's coming. I don't know where we are. Okay, here we go. So this is the prophecy. A half-blood of the eldest gods shall reach 16 against all odds. So obviously that's, like, a half-blood of one of these three, which would be Percy. Shall reach 16 against all odds. You know, he's reaching 16. And see the world in an endless sleep. The hero's blade cursed. Oh my god. The hero's soul cursed blade shall reap. A single choice. I can't speak. A single choice shall end his days. Olympus to preserve or raise. There's more. Maybe not. Oh wait, that's it. Olympus to preserve or raise. Raise being, like, destroy, not, like, raise up. So yeah, he basically, it's like, okay, like, Olympus is gonna, like, die, and he's gonna die as well, and hero's soul cursed blade shall reap does not sound very good for Percy. So yeah, that's kind of what happens. And so Percy reads that, and obviously he's upset. He's not specifically upset with Annabeth, but he's like upset about the whole situation, obviously, and he's upset that she kept it from him for so long, because she's known this prophecy for like 6 years and never told him. So yeah, that's the whole thing. And so there's kind of some weird tension there, because they're both very upset that he's gonna die. You know how it is. And by the way, like when he was reading the prophecy, Annabeth's like crying, like she's like upset. So yeah, chapter 4 is called We Burnham Riddle Shroud, We Burnham Riddle Shroud, which is like at Camp Half-Blood, their tradition is to burn shrouds for everyone that dies, and so Charles died, so his shroud was metal, I guess, and so they burned it. Other than that, I'm not sure what chapter it happens in. I think it's the next one, so I'm gonna just go on to the next chapter, which is chapter 5. It's called I drive my dog into a tree, which will make sense in a bit. But basically, again, I don't remember if this is in chapter 4 or 5, but there's this scene where Percy and Annabeth are they're both the head counselors of the cabin. Like, you know, Percy's literally the only person in the Poseidon cabin, so he's automatically head counselor, but Annabeth is the head counselor of the Athena cabin. And so they, as head counselors, have like duties they have to do, and so they have to do oh my god, like they have to do like room cleanliness checks, I guess. And so they like go to each cabin, like rate how clean it is or something, and then they also have to go through mail. And so like I think like either like I think Percy has like the cleaning one, and Annabeth's task is to do the mail, and so they like do them together because they're like cute like that. And so they're like going through I can't remember, they're going through the mail. I don't know which one they do first. They're going through the mail, and they're like finding out, oh, by the way, Grover is gone this whole time. We don't know where Grover is, so that's cool. They go through the mail, and they're just like chatting it up, and it's like really cute, and they're just cute. And then they do the cleaning rating one, which again is just cute. But then they're like walking outside after doing the tasks and stuff, and Percy brings okay, here it comes. But Rachel, let me get this straight. Percy had a dream. Okay, yes, Percy had a dream about Rachel when he was at camp, and the dream showed Rachel like she's a painter. Rachel is so cool. Rachel paints, and she's also like so rich. So she has like a huge studio apartment in New York, and she's painting like Kronos. And Percy's like, why does Rachel know about that? And so Rachel's been like having visions apparently, and so like Percy knows about it. And so also Rachel invited Percy to go on a vacation. That's another important thing. And so Percy, I'm gonna see if I can quote this whole thing from my brain because I love it so much. Percy is like, Rachel's having visions or something, or he says, I had a dream about Rachel, and that's not what Annabeth wants to hear. And she's like, oh really? And he's like, yeah, she's having visions or something. And then Annabeth's like, oh okay, and whatever. And she's like, but Percy, she's immortal, like she doesn't know what she's talking about, she's just immortal. And he's like, he basically kind of like blows up at her. They both blow up at each other about like, because he's really stressed because he's like destined to die in a few days, and she's really stressed because he's destined to die in a few days. And so like he's like, well, we need to do something because like I'm about to die and I don't want it to be for nothing. And she's like, fine, if you think that we're so useless, go talk to Rachel, go on vacation with Rachel, see if I care. And she calls him a coward, and it's like this whole thing. It's like a huge blow up fight, and it's like in front of everyone, and it's like the most tea ever. And so then at the end of chapter 5, Nico shows up. And he's like, okay, Percy, it's time to put into action the plan that we came up with at the end of Battle of the Labyrinth. And so they hop on some hellhounds and they drive into a tree, which is basically called shadow traveling. I'm pretty sure that's what it's called. Shadow traveling, which is like a power of children of Hades, where like any shadow, they can just like go into it and like show up in another shadow, like literally, like it could be across the world, whatever, but it's like really exhausting to do. So yeah, so they hop on some hellhounds and they go, you know who they go to? They go to May, I think her name's May Castellan's house, which is Luke Castellan's mom. And so basically, just to make this all make sense, I think this is what happens, right? Yeah, my math teacher, okay, it's fine. The whole plan is that Percy's gonna get dipped in the river of the river Styx, which is like, you know, like Achilles heel, all that kind of stuff. Achilles was dipped in the river Styx, everything but his heel, so he was immortal everywhere but his heel, right? That's what's gonna happen with Percy, except his like weak point won't be his heel, but like that's the whole plan, and that's what they think Luke did too. And so to like do the river Styx thing, you need to get your mom's permission, I guess. Like, isn't that so weird? You need to get your mom's permission? I don't know. So they go to May Castellan's house because they're kind of like chatting to her to see if Luke asked her for permission. But they show up and it's really not a good experience, because May Castellan is essentially like, I don't even know how to explain her. She's like insane, but not in like, it's not like a scare, it is scary, but it's not in like a negative, like she's gonna attack you kind of way. It's like in a sad way. Like she lives every day of her life. It's kind of like she's in like a Groundhog Day situation. She doesn't know anything about Luke. She thinks that Luke is still like 10 years old and still coming, he's gonna come home soon, and she like bakes him cookies every day, but he never comes home. But she doesn't even like, she has like memory loss, so like they would be like, I'm Percy, I'm Nico, but she'd look at them and be like, Luke? Like she thought they were Luke. It's really sad, and it makes you really feel for Luke Castellan. I mean, not Luke, well, it makes you feel for May Castellan, but it also kind of gives you some background on why Luke ran away, and also why Luke hated his dad so much, because Hermes just like left May in that state and didn't do anything to help. So yeah. And then chapter 7 is called My Math Teacher Gives Me a Lift, which I can't, does that mean Mrs. Dodds? I don't know what that means. Wait. Yeah, no, I don't know. But at some point, they do see Sally Jackson, because Percy has to get Sally's approval to do it. Yeah. Whatever. And then chapter 8 is called I Take the Worst Bath Ever, which is basically him and Nico go to the underworld and he gets dipped in the river Styx, and he makes his like weakness point his lower back. So that's fun. Chapter 9 is called Two Snakes Saved My Life, which is really interesting. Could not tell you what that means. Also, at some point, okay, I think it would think it's in chapter 8. There's no way all that happened in chapter 8. Anyway, when he's in the underworld while he gets dipped in the river Styx, Nico like tricks him a little bit and takes him to Hades. And I don't remember what happens at Hades, but Percy's like, you tricked me. Like, he's like mad about it, but I don't think nothing that bad happened. So yeah. But okay, so chapter 9 is called Two Snakes Saved My Life, and the only two snakes I can think of is the Hermes' two snakes, which I know there's a thing with them, but they don't come in until like later, I thought. But I guess not. Yeah, I guess not. Okay. So basically they're up in Olympus? Question mark? I'm skipping so much of the book. Basically, Percy's now immortal. He's like, we need to go fight them right now. And so Kronos has set a spell or something on the whole city. The whole city's asleep. Like literally everyone in New York is passed out. Everyone that's mortal. And so Percy at some point called Annabeth and was like, Annabeth, you need to round up the whole camp and send them to the city. And so he comes out of the underworld and everyone's there. And he's like, boom, we're ready to fight. And so they go up to Olympus, and he talks to Hermes at some point for some reason. Because like Hermes gives him some messages because he's like the messenger of God, right? And so he gives him some messages. One of the messages was from Athena, and Athena told Percy to stay away from her daughter, which was really funny. But I don't know what the two snakes did. Okay, I still don't remember what the two snakes did, but I remember something else that happened at that moment. So he's talking to Hermes, and Percy got like a vision of the only night that Luke ever spoke to his dad, which like in the first book I mentioned that like Luke had only talked to his dad once, and that was that moment. It was like a really bad memory. And Percy saw it, and it like made him, it just makes you understand Luke a little bit more. While like Luke is like horrible and a villain, it's like, well, so is his dad in a way, you know. So yeah. Chapter 10 is called I Buy Some New Friends, which like I literally have no clue what that means. I buy some new friends. Wait, hold on. Wait, okay. They're like, I don't know what they mean by that. I buy some new friends? Yeah, I've got no clue. But basically at this point, they're not in Olympus anymore. They are on the ground level, and they're fighting Kronos' army. So like this is like the big battle that Percy's destined to die in. But then, okay, so chapter 11 is called We Break a Bridge, which this is where a lot of juicy stuff happens. So God, I literally can't think. So at some point, no, it's coming. I think there's so much happening. Like the battle is happening right here, where I thought it was at the end, and I'm so like they really get right into the battle. So okay, we break a bridge. Basically, they're on a bridge and they're fighting Kronos' army, and Percy's on like the front lines, and so is Annabeth. Annabeth gets stabbed. Basically, okay, Ethan Nakamura, who I mentioned before, is like either the child of Nemesis or Nike. I do not remember. It's Nemesis because it's balance, because he, as a like one of his like powers as a demigod is sensing like balance or something. It like gives him, it helps him win like a balanced fight, and so Ethan gets a sense of like where Percy's weakness spot is, because that would be a balanced fight then. I don't know how that makes sense, but it like does. And so he throws a knife at Percy's one weak spot, so like it would like literally kill him, and Annabeth like runs in front of it because she somehow is just like subconsciously like, yeah, like if he gets hit he's gonna die or something. And so Annabeth takes this poisonous blade to her shoulder, I'm pretty sure, and it's like a whole thing. And so they like take her to Will Solus, who is iconic and will become more iconic in the Heroes of Olympus series. And she's like healing, and there's just like a really cute moment where like Percy's like next to her and he's like, why did you do that? And she's like, you would have done the same for me. And he's like, how did you know? And she's like, know what? And he's like, know about my weak spot. And she's like, where is it? And he's like, the small of my back. And she's like, oh my god, it's like this whole thing. So yeah. Then chapter 12 is called Rachel Makes a Bad Deal. I don't remember what that means, but Rachel comes in on a helicopter. 10%. Oh my god, I gotta finish this quick. Rachel comes in on a helicopter because, again, she's rich. And I don't remember what the bad deal was, because she makes a deal at the end, but not the beginning. So I don't know what this means. But Rachel shows up, and Annabeth's like, why is she here? And she comes in and she has a prophecy of some sort. And I don't remember what it was, but Rachel's here now. Chapter 13 is called A Titan Brings Me a Present. Okay, Titan brings me a present. I don't remember what that means, but like the Titan, like I don't know. At some point there was some like meeting between like the Titan and Percy, but I don't remember what the present was. So yeah. Chapter 14 is called Pig's Fly, which is literally like there's some sort of monster that is literally like a flying pig that comes in, which is it's just more of the battle. Actually, there is something more to that chapter. So something that's important throughout this whole book is that Clarice is mad about something. Like someone stole her chariot or something, and so the Ares cabin has refused to fight in this battle. And so Selena Beauregard. Oh wait, there's a whole other thing too. Okay, wait, hold on. There's also, throughout the whole series, they've known, or at least since like the second book, they've known that there's a spy in the camp. One of the campers has been giving out information to Luke, because like the stuff about like the fleece, that was a spy. The stuff about like where the labyrinth was, that was a spy. There's like little pieces of information that Luke and his army could not have known had they not had a connection into Camp Half-Blood. And so basically Selena Beauregard goes back to camp and she dresses up as Clarice and like leads the Ares cabin into the battle, and she fights the flying pig thing, and she sacrifices herself essentially, like dressed as Clarice. And Clarice and Selena are like really, really good friends, and so like Clarice is there and she's like, oh my god, like all this stuff, and Selena reveals that she was the spy. And it's like it's moments like that when it's like Luke just cannot be redeemed, because she was talking about how like Luke was just really nice to her, and she like felt bad and she wanted to like, and it was just like Luke is such a master manipulator, dog. It's so crazy. So yeah, Selena dies then. So she's the spy of the camp, and she's like a hero. So yeah. Chapter 15 is called Chiron Throws a Party, which is essentially just the party ponies from book 2 come back. So it's a bunch of centaurs like helping them out. Chapter 17 is called I Sit on the Hot Seat, which, hold on, wait. Hold on. Wait, I skipped the whole chapter. Chapter 16 is called We Get Help from a Thief. Is that, wait, that's a really clever, if I think that is what that means, that if I think that's what it means. I don't know what I was trying to say. Chapter 16, this might be the chapter, basically the line of the prophecy that's like a hero's soul it's literally midnight. A hero's soul cursed blade shall reap. That's one of the lines of the prophecy. Percy thought it was about him, but turns out it was about Luke. And so Luke, who also was dipped in the river Styx, sacrifices himself essentially, and so the cursed blade is Annabeth's knife, which she's had forever. And so the cursed blade, he literally stabs himself because he's the only one that knows where his spot is, and I'm pretty sure it's literally his armpit. So but it's this whole debate in the fandom of like, is he a hero, is he not, because he was like horrible, but he's like being claimed as a hero. I don't know, I don't think he's that much of a hero. So yeah. So but the chapter being called We Get Help from a Thief is because Luke was the lightning thief from the lightning thief, and he like helped them out in the end. So yeah, but right before he dies, okay, so like Luke dies, and that's like how they defeat Kronos. Right before he dies, he looks to Annabeth and says, did you ever love me? Like, what do you mean? What do you mean, Luke? Luke, you're 21 and she's 16. What do you mean? Like, the age gap is not okay. So that's really crazy. And she's literally like, no. Okay. Chapter 17 is called I Sit on the Hot Seat, which is basically just, they go up to Olympus, and it's kind of giving, at the end of Deathly Hallows Part 2, how Ron, Harry, and Hermione are like on that bridge and everything's destroyed at Hogwarts, and they like crack and throw the Elder Wand. That's very much what I'm getting from this scene in I Sit on the Hot Seat. It's just Grover, Annabeth, and Percy, and they're all up in Olympus. Everything's like destroyed and crazy, and they're kind of just like walking around post-battle. And Percy needs to get his dad's attention, so he sits on Poseidon's throne, which gets his attention right away. He almost like incinerates Percy. So yeah, I don't remember what he says to Poseidon, but yeah. Number 18 is called My Parents Go Commando, which I literally don't know what that means. I think his parents just like help him, like his parents being like his parents being, I think he's referring to Sally and Paul, which is really cute because Paul's like, him calling Paul one of his parents is cute. Yeah, I don't know what that means. Number 19 is called, or chapter 19 is We Trash the Eternal City, which is Olympus. Which is like, the battle just gets really intense and it goes up to Olympus, I guess. But then they defeat him. I don't know what that means, actually. I thought the war was already over. I'm not quite sure. There's a lot we don't know. Then chapter 20 is called We Win Fabulous Prizes, which I love this one. So the battle is over. And they're all up in Olympus and the gods are like, you guys are so brave. And so they're like giving out awards to the demigods and like the heroes that fought in the war. Like they give Tyson a stick because they're so nice like that. I don't remember. Oh, wait. They give Grover something. Is that when he's added to the council? I don't know. They give him like a responsibility to do something and Grover's like, oh my gosh, yes. But then Annabeth is like one of my favorites. She is given the opportunity to rebuild Olympus, which is so significant because she's like Miss Architect. Her dream, and like when she met the sirens in the second book, her dream was like to build a city, and so she actually gets to build Olympus. Like, that's insane. And so she's like shook to her core. So yeah. But then Percy, they're like, Percy, we will give you like literally anything you want. Like, they literally are like, we'll give you whatever you wish for. And they're like, well, we know what you're gonna wish for. You're gonna wish to be a god and be immortal for the rest of your life. And it's so, I want to read the quote from this one. Hold on, let me find it. Wait, hold on, I'm going too far ahead of myself. I'm going too far ahead of myself. It's coming. Okay. So basically all the gods are like, wait, this is what Zeus says. I know what you will ask, the greatest gift of all. Yes, if you want it, it shall be yours. The gods have not bestowed this gift on a mortal hero in many centuries, but Perseus Jackson, if you wish it, you shall be made a god, immortal, undying. You shall serve as your father's lieutenant for all time. And Percy says, a god? And then Zeus says, a dim-witted god, apparently. But yes, with the consensus of the entire council, I can make you immortal. Then I will have to put up with you forever. And Ares says, that means I can smash him to a pulp as often as I want, and he'll just keep coming back for more. I like this idea. And this is a direct quote. So it says, I approve as well, Athena said, though she was looking at Annabeth. And it says, I glanced back. Annabeth was trying not to meet my eyes. Her face was pale. I flashed back to 2 years ago when I thought she was going to take the pledge to become a hunter of Artemis. I'd been on the edge of a panic attack thinking that I'd lose her. Now she looked pretty much the same way. And it says, I thought about the 3 fates and the way I'd seen my life flash by. I could avoid all of that. No aging, no death, no body in the grave. I could be a teenager forever, in top condition, powerful and immortal, serving my father. I could have power and eternal life. Who could refuse that? Then I looked at Annabeth again. I thought about my friends from camp. Charles Begadorf, Michael Yu, Selena Beauregard, so many others who are now dead. I thought about Ethan Nakamura and Luke. I knew what to do. No, I said. The council was silent. The gods frowned at each other like they must have misheard. No, Zeus said, you are turning down our generous gift? And it's like, Percy says, I'm honored and everything, don't get me wrong. It's just, I've got a life left to live. I hate to peek in my sophomore year. The gods were glaring at me, but Percy had her hands over her mouth. Her eyes were shimmering, and that kind of made up for it. I'm screaming. And then basically, I'm not going to read the rest of the quote, but basically his wish instead of becoming a god is that the gods have to take responsibility for their kids, because the whole reason this whole thing, the whole drama for the past 5 books came about is because Luke felt unloved by his dad and felt that he was not given enough respect by the gods and stuff like that. So Percy was like, you have to claim your kids, you have to take responsibility for that, and you have to be there and you can't just leave them to whatever. So yeah, and that's literally one of, I keep saying this most iconic thing ever, but that's actually one of the most iconic thing ever. Yeah. And then 21 is called Blackjack Gets Jacked, which I quite honestly don't know what that means, but actually I do. I do know what that means. Basically, I don't know why it's called Gets Jacked, but they go down after the Olympus thing. I should have mentioned Olympus is in the Empire State Building. So when I say they come down, I mean they literally like come down the elevator to the bottom of the Empire State Building. At the bottom, they meet Percy's parents, and like Nico's there, and wait, that's when Nico says, "With great power comes great responsibility," to take a nap or something, which is a Spider-Man quote, but like that's so me. I don't know. Okay, I just love that. But basically, they find out that like Rachel has been taken to camp, and they're like, "What are you talking about?" And Rachel's about to like take the pledge to be an oracle, and they're like, "What?" And basically, the whole thing with May Castellan, Luke's mom, was that the reason she was insane was because she tried to become the oracle, but it left her like her brain scattered, like she went insane. And so Percy was like, "You can't let Rachel do that. She's gonna go insane, like May Castellan." And so he like, that's when he takes Blackjack and he like runs back to camp, and they watch her take the pledge to be oracle, and it like works. And then she becomes oracle. So it's the oracle is no longer the mummy in the attic of the big house. It's now literally Rachel. But literally like 2 seconds in, Rachel gives the next big prophecy, the next great prophecy. Like literally 2 seconds after the first one was finished, she gives the next great prophecy, and they're like, we'll worry about that later, because I'm pretty sure the great prophecy that like was the whole "you'll reach 16 against all odds" thing was like 80 years old. Like they had like, it lasted a long time because there were no children of Zeus, Hades, and Poseidon. But then like the next great prophecy, it was like 7 demigods shall reign, and like the mother of earth and all that stuff, and they're like, that doesn't have to do with us. Enter Heroes of Olympus. But yeah, that is a whole other series, so we don't need to worry about that right now. But yeah, that's what chapter 21 is. And then chapter 22 is called I'm Dumped, which that is the funniest thing ever, because when reading this, and I'm pretty sure this is like a universal experience, everyone reads the chapter title I Am Dumped and thinks Percy and Annabeth are gonna like not that they're together, but like break up kind of. But quite the opposite. Basically, it's the chapter when Percy and Annabeth, they kiss and they start dating they start dating officially. And it's really cute, and it's like right at the end, and it's like, it's so cute, guys. It's so cute. Because basically, I'll paraphrase the whole conversation. So basically, it happens on Percy's birthday, and it's kind of like, "So you didn't die, ha ha ha, here's a cupcake," and he's like, "Thanks." And she's like, "You saved the world," and he's like, "We saved the world," and she's like, "Oh, well, now Rachel's an oracle, so she can't date anyone," and he's like, "You don't sound disappointed," and she's like, "Oh, I don't care, and then he's like, well, see, he says something, I don't know, and she's like, "You got something to say to me, CD Brain?" And he's like, "Nah, you'd probably punch me," or he's like, "You'd probably beat me up," and she's like, "I'd definitely beat you up," or something like that. And he starts talking about like when he was on Olympus, and he was like looking at her, and she's like making fun of him, kind of. She's like kind of teasing him, and he's like, "You're not making this easy for me," and she's like, "I will never make this easy for you, CB Brain," and then she kisses him, and then the whole camp comes up behind them, and they're like, "Yes, finally," and they like pick them up and like throw them into the lake, and that's like the dumped thing, like they get dumped into the lake. So yeah, and then chapter 23, which is the last chapter of the book and the last chapter of the entire series, is called We Say Goodbye, sort of, which it's kind of just like wrapping up everything about the whole camp. They see like every character for the last time, kind of. It's a little goodbye to like Grover and like all this stuff, and it's such a punch to the gut. And it's like 2 weeks later, I think. And so like Percy and Annabeth have been dating for 2 weeks now, and at the end of every book, almost every book, like sort of, there's a whole thing of like Percy, or I guess it's at the end of the first book for sure. Percy, like, as he's leaving camp for the summer, he like looks back at the camp and he's like, "Goodbye home, like my home, my safe place," all this stuff. But at the very, very end of this book, Percy and Annabeth leave camp together and they like run. They're like holding hands, they like run, and it ends with him saying, and for the first time he never looked back. Which is just so cute. So yeah. This series, like, let me tell you, this series is so good and literally raised me. Like, I would not be the person I am today without these books. I've made some of my best friends because of these books. Like, are you kidding? Like, these characters are like my people. I sound crazy. I sound crazy. But yeah. I love Percy Jackson, and y'all, the Heroes of Olympus video coming soon, but I thought this video was gonna be really quick and it was so long, so I'm like kind of scared for Heroes of Olympus, because like Heroes of Olympus, let me tell you, is like double this size. Like, it's probably like from here to here. Y'all, I don't know. Each book is like 500 pages. Maybe that one would be a little more general, I don't know, but I just love the lore of this whole universe. It's so good. Yeah. And you know, like, I do a thing where like almost every summer I do a reading vlog of these books. But it's like literally at this point I've read it so many times that I'm like like, do I really need to read it again? Like, I feel like it's too soon because I read it like so recently. But so this kind of makes up for not having a reading vlog. And also, here's the thing, I did like a rereading Percy Jackson, and I did like a rereading Percy Jackson. What did I do? I did rereading Percy Jackson in a week, and then I had rereading Percy Jackson in 24 hours. And so I'm like, how am I supposed to level up from reading? I can't read it faster than in 24 hours. So, like, I'm sorry. So, whatever. That's all I gotta say. Bye.